Welcome back to episode 91 of the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast. My name is Josh. As always, I'm here, Troy. It is very, very early on Wednesday morning. Due to life schedules, we had to do this pretty early. How you doing, Troy? Got the cobwebs out yet?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Shook them out. But yeah, like you said, we had to go super early. Sometimes it's super late. Sometimes it's super early. And today is super early.
It seems like for the first year we did the show, it was kind of normal time. And then ever since we hit that year mark, whether it's my schedule or your schedule, we're all over the place. But that's all right. Excited to be here, ready to go. Well, I guess it's officially the off season, right? We're in the off season now. Off season, fine season.
We are. We're in the off season.
Actually, kind of looking forward to that. We got a lot of content stuff planned for this off season. I think even from the hockey hobby perspective, it'll get a little busier because, like we said, it is buying season. So we're going to be taking a look back at this last year and kind of slice and dice every way possible and how players, skaters, and goalies performed. And then, of course, we'll look ahead a lot to next year, which should be a very fascinating, super exciting, and crazy year in the hockey hobby. So buckle up and stay tuned for that. Ton to get to today. But before we get started, just want to remind everyone that our podcast, the Hockey Cards Gongshow, is a Patreon podcast, which means that we rely on support from listeners like yourself to help us cover our show expenses, continue to produce more and hopefully better hockey card content, and help us fund initiatives, even in a small way, to grow the hockey hobby. There's still 9 spots left out of our first 99 support level tier. You'll forever have that title, be one of the first 99 supporters of our show. You also get exclusive access to our Discord server, where you can chat with us on a daily basis and join the awesome community that has really grown there. We can't really take credit for that, I suppose. That's all the fine people that really make it great and add tons of content there on a daily basis. It's super easy to support us. It's only $5 a month. There's a link in the show description for whatever podcast app you're listening to us on right now. Or you could go to our website, hockeycardsgongshow.com, and click on the Become a Patron link. You could go to the Patreon website at patreon.com and search for Hockey Cards Gongshow, or in our social media on our TikTok and Instagram profiles in our link tree. There's a link there. Okay, Troy, fun episode. Let's get into it. What's the game plan?
On today's show, we begin with hockey's greatest player to wear number 91. Then it's off to our Stanley Cup Finals update. Then we go on to hobby news. We then have an interview with Zach Smith and Joe Messina from Second String Leather Company, who are a new Hockey Cards Gongshow sponsor and partner. They have some absolute fantastic products that we feel our listeners will be very interested in, so please stick around for that to hear about their story and the great products that they have. Next, it is our look at our favorite hockey cards in the current PWCC weekly auction. We finish the show with new product releases and our listener mailbag. All right, Josh, it's early, super early. We're on number 91. Hockey's greatest NHL player to wear 91. Per the Hockey Writer's greatest player to wear each number article is Sergei Fedorov. And Josh, I'm sure you are excited about this one. You grew up a Detroit Red Wings fan, so I'm guessing you're all in on Sergei Fedorov.
Yeah, totally. He was my guy growing up. And I've said this a lot. The 1990 Upper Deck Sergei Fedorov Young Guns is really the card that got me most interested in hockey cards. I remember it was such a big deal back at that time. And you had, of course, it was still right around when the Ken Griffey Jr. rookie was real big. And you had Barry Sanders and Bo Jackson leading the way. But as far as like new rookie cards went and sort of ripping packs, opening packs, everyone wanted the Sergei Fedorov. And I was trying to remember like if it was like 10 or 15 bucks or something like that, what they would go for. Really wasn't grading at the time, raw at card shops. Maybe even it hit a little bit higher at some point. I have such a terrible memory, but I still love that card. Every time and that's, I think, kind of one of the cool things about the hobby, and especially as you collect it as a kid, and everyone will have those cards for very nostalgic reasons that just make you happy every time you see it. And it doesn't have to be super valuable, like in the case of, and I'm sure you'll go through it, this card doesn't break the bank, of course, as it's from the junk wax era. But
no, it doesn't.
I'm really excited to hear what you kind of learned about Fedorov.
Oh yeah, there's a lot to learn. Just to let everyone know, 91 had some definitely contenders. We had Fedorov, Steven Stamkos, John Tavares, Tarasenko. So some good players at number 91.
Yeah, a lot. Wow.
All right, let's get rolling. Fedorov was a center from, and I have no clue how to say this. It's PSKOV, so I'm going Skov maybe. Maybe don't say the P, but center from Skov, Soviet Union. Fedorov was the 74th overall pick in the 1989 NHL entry draft by the Detroit Red Wings. Fedorov played in 1,248 regular season games over an 18-season NHL career. Fedorov started his career with 13 seasons in Detroit. This was followed by stints with the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, Columbus Blue Jackets, which I had no clue he played for. I totally forgot about that era. And finally, the Washington Capitals. All right, for Fedorov's awards and accomplishments, he has a lot. Hall of Famer, 3-time Cup winner, all with Detroit in 1997, 98, and 2002. He was on the 1991 All-Rookie team. 2-time Selke Trophy winner, 1-time Hart Trophy winner, 1-time Ted Lindsay Award winner, 1-time NHL First All-Star Team, 6-time NHL All-Star Game selection. He was named to the top 100 NHL players list, and he was also named to the Athletics top 100 players of the post-expansion era at number 33. For his career, Fedorov had 483 goals, 696 assists for 1,179 points.
Now, as a numbers guy, would it be hard for you to retire with 17 goals short of 500?
Oh, yeah, it definitely would be. I mean, one of my favorite, I always think about this with baseball players. My favorite baseball player is Kent Hrbek. And I think he retired with 293 home runs or something pretty short of 300. That would always bother me. All right, Fedorov made the playoffs in 15 of his 18 NHL seasons, compiling 52 goals, 124 assists for 176 points in 183 playoff games played. Fedorov had 12 seasons of 60-plus points, 6 seasons of 70-plus points, 5 seasons of 80-plus points, and 2 seasons over that 100-plus point mark. He also had 10 seasons of 30-plus goals with 1 season of 50-plus goals. The best season of his career from a point standpoint was his 93-94 season, where Fedorov had 56 goals, 64 assists for 120 points in 82 games played in that season. All right, Josh, let's talk about Fedorov. This kind of ties into number 89, but Fedorov defected to the U.S. following the path that was paved by Alexander Mogilny, who, like I said, we talked about on episode 89. 2 months after Mogilny defected, Detroit drafted Fedorov. A big reason he was drafted by the Red Wings is the Red Wings general manager, DeVillano, consulted team captain Steve Yzerman about Fedorov. And Yzerman simply told him, he's better than me. Now, I think that's a pretty big endorsement if you're asked about how good you are from one of the greatest players in NHL history, and that's what he says, you're better than I am, or he's better than I was.
When you said he was the 74th pick, I wonder if he was drafted that low just because of all the uncertainty in the whole defection process.
Yep.
That you wouldn't want to risk taking a guy like him with the 5th overall pick in case he doesn't end up coming over.
Yeah, and again, this goes back. This is why Mogilny was such a huge deal, how he paved the way for kind of the Russian players to come over. Fedorov's defection was facilitated by the Red Wings, who had a journalist slip Fedorov and Vladimir Konstantinov, who the Red Wings had also drafted, a Detroit Red Wings media guide with a letter in the guide saying the Red Wings wanted them to defect and would help them. I just love all these background stories. In July,
spy novel.
It is. It's total spy novel. So in July 1990, Fedorov decided to defect, and the Soviet national team came to the U.S. to play in the Goodwill Games. So the Soviet team had an exhibition game in Portland, Oregon, and after the game, the Red Wings picked up Fedorov outside his hotel, brought him to Detroit in Red Wings. They had Mike Ilitch's private jet kind of lined up, brought him to the airport, got him on the plane, and away they went, and he defected. So I didn't read like if there was any other like, hiding out like McGillney where you had to hide out because you're worried that someone was following you. But again, another of these like sneaking out and getting on a plane for the Red Wings owner and getting to they're already in the U.S., but getting over to Detroit and
can you imagine like the Russian coach on the bus getting ready for the game is like doing head count? Everyone here, where's Fedorov? Is he in the bathroom or something like that? It's like, no, he's gone, man.
Yeah, he's gone. It's crazy though. It is kind of funny, like you said. Fedorov was known for his skating, his speed, his offensive skill set, and being a fantastic two-way player. In fact, when I was doing all this research, there was a line in his NHL.com top 100 NHL players write-up that I think just says it all. Here's the quote. From his breakaway speed to his astonishing passes, from his wicked shots to his puck-stealing ploys, from his goalie deflating dekes to his solid body checks, from his offensive prowess to his defensive excellence, Fedorov's silky actions and inexhaustible energy wowed teammates and foes alike. I don't know how to say it any better, but there it is. I love that write-up or that quick one-line sentence about Fedorov's career. So I mentioned what Yzerman said. And one thing one thing you see when you do a bunch of research on Fedorov is, holy cow, everyone loved this guy just from his skill set. So check out these ringing endorsements. So along with the line I said about Fedorov, or that Yzerman said about Fedorov, he also stated that Fedorov is the best skater he had ever seen. During the 93-94 season, Gretzky said he had never seen a player dominate the game the way Sergei did. Later that season, Gretzky also said that Fedorov is the best player in the game at this point. Another Yzerman quote, I've only seen two other players that can dominate a game like Fedorov, and that's Wayne and Mario. In my opinion, he's the best player in the league. He is different from Wayne and Mario because he dominates with his speed and unbelievable one-on-one moves. Scotty Bowman said he's got the greatest leg strength I've ever seen in a player. His legs are phenomenal. And finally, Ovechkin actually said he's the best player I've ever played with. He was unbelievable. You put him in every position, and he was going to be the best. His hockey sense was unbelievable. His shot and vision, unbelievable. And what's interesting about that, I'm just remembering this, how Ovechkin says you put him in any position. Bowman actually put him at D during some points during the season. And Bowman actually said, too, if he made Fedorov a D, he would have won the Norris Trophy. No doubt in his mind, he would have won the Norris Trophy a couple times. So those are some pretty big accolades from some all-time greats. Fedorov is widely considered one of the best players in the world during the 90s. Currently, Fedorov is the head coach of CSKA Moscow in the KHL, so he's still involved in the game. I'm curious. I didn't see much about this. I didn't look that hard, but I wonder if he ever comes back. I think he still has a place in Detroit. I think I saw he might have a place in South Beach. But I'm more curious if he comes over and does any work with the Red Wings. I know he had a charity and stuff, but I didn't see if he's still involved with them at all. So that's kind of our write-up, our little blurb on our man, Sergei Fedorov, a fantastic player. Go watch highlight videos of him. It's awesome. He's so fast.
Well, I remember seeing him play a bunch when my dad who worked in the automotive industry and had season tickets to the Red Wings for many, many years. It's just seeing Fedorov play. But then, too, to me, he's forever linked to the Russian Five.
Yeah.
So the five communist-era players that the Red Wings had on the team at one time. So it's Fedorov, Konstantinov, Slava Kozlov, Slava Fetisov, and Igor Larionov.
Yeah.
And even at that point when I was still, just barely a teenager at that point, you could tell that those guys had played hockey together since they were very, very young. They just knew exactly where everyone was going to be, and the passing was incredible.
Yep.
They had such a chemistry that had been developed, and I'll always remember that as a fan of the game. So he and those guys have a kind of a special place in my hockey heart, as you want to call it.
Detroit was definitely on the ball with that, with the whole Russian players. So that's kind of the overview, but now we got to get into the fun, interesting facts. And let me be honest, there was about 1 billion I could have put down for Fedorov, but I had to narrow it down or else we'd be here all afternoon too. Fedorov was the first European-trained player to win the Hart Trophy. He was the first Russian player to reach 1,000 NHL points. And I didn't write this down, but I think I saw that he holds the record right now for most points by a current Soviet Union era player, maybe, or something like that. Because obviously, I can't remember how many points Ovechkin has, but it might be a Soviet player too. I can't remember off the top of my head. All right, here's one of my favorites. Fedorov signed a 4-year deal to become the first non-North American spokesman for Nike, in which he made the white skates famous. I remember the white skates. I remember how cool they looked, and it's fun. It was fun to go back and look at old commercials and old marketing copy, I guess, where they have the white skates on there. They were fantastic looking.
How long did Nike make skates for?
I don't know. I can't remember. I mean, I definitely remember when Nike had skates, and then I can't remember who they sold to, if it was CCM, Bauer, one of those. Yeah. At one point, Reebok was in there, and I mean, Reebok I can't remember. I can never remember who makes what. I just know Bauer and CCM are the big ones. And you got like Warrior and some other ones. All right. Fedorov had a cereal named after him called Fedorov Crunch. I never had it. I don't even know where you could get it, but that would have been cool. And then the last one, just because I'm a pop culture idiot and like this stuff. Fedorov claimed he and tennis star Anna Kournikova were married in 2001. Josh, I'm sure that broke your heart when that was released or that news came out. So Fedorov, here's the deal.
She was pretty back in the day. Very, very pretty.
Not big.
The greatest tennis player.
Not the greatest athlete, but I remember, a lot of hype around her, and then I don't know if she ever won a major. But Fedorov claims he and Anna Kournikova were married in 2001. Kournikova's representatives denied any marriage to Fedorov. Then there's this nugget, which I still can't wrap my head around. So she denied being married to him. However, Kournikova turned over her South Beach condo as part of the divorce. That just reads really, really weird. I don't understand it, but it is.
How do you get divorced if you're never married?
Yeah, but I thought that was a fun fact to end on. All right, Josh, you hinted at this. His cards. Yeah. Rookie card, 1990, OPG Premier, number 30. PSA 10 has a pop of 1,408. The gem rate of 33%. You are going to get this card anywhere from $55 to $80 US. So have at it. These cards are out there. They sell frequently. They're available, and they're not going to break the bank. And again, the BGS 9.5 is a pop of 346. Gem rate at 27%. And these go anywhere from $20 US to 100, depending on the subgrades.
Given his resume, he doesn't have a ton of even relevance now. Like, I don't really run into a lot of Fedorov collectors. Do you?
No. It's pretty crazy. Like,
I wonder if he signs much, or like, because I also haven't seen many like cup cards or limited logos or anything of that sort from him. And the other guy I was thinking of is there has been seems like a little renaissance on Pavel Bure, and I wonder why he is more collected than Fedorov. It's more the Canadians and the Canucks factor that.
I mean, Detroit was big, huge fan base, and that '90s era Detroit with those Soviet players. Yeah, it's a great question. I want to go look up that more and see if I can find any Fedorov autos.
I'm going to spend all day looking for cool Fedorov cards. Great overview. Obviously a great player and fun to learn about him. Well, Troy, the season is over.
Officially over.
And yeah, it was over actually pretty early last night.
Sounds like.
Your Stanley Cup champions, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, throttled the Florida Panthers 9-3 in Game 5 to win the Stanley Cup and win the series 4-1. Congratulations to any Golden Knights fans and collectors out there. It must be an amazing feeling right now to be Stanley Cup champions. Troy and I will never know that feeling.
We'll never know that
here
feeling
in Minnesota. We could get all the greatest players in NHL history on our team, and we'd still find a way to lose. That's what happens in Minnesota. Not a super exciting game, I guess, unless you're a Vegas fan. Then it's sort of a dream game when you just beat really bad your opponent. I was really hoping for a close, kind of exciting series. Obviously, that didn't happen, so it's a little bit of a bummer if you're not invested super into either team. I don't think we need to go look back at our predictions. I don't think either of us had Vegas on our radar at the beginning of the season. That's for sure. I think we knew they would be a good, solid team because really in their, 6-7 year history, they have been every year. But would have never picked them in a million years. And Troy, this is why I don't bet on sports.
Yep.
Because I would have bet on about probably 20 other teams before I bet on Las Vegas to win the Stanley Cup. Florida came into the game a little bit handicapped, of course, with Matthew Tkachuk being sidelined due to his, at the time, upper body injury, quote unquote, was not able to go in game 5. It did not take long after the game was over, 5-10 minutes, and you had texted me that the news had already came out that he had suffered a broken sternum, which sounds all sorts of awful and painful.
They were interviewing Paul Maurice, and I can't remember her name, and I apologize. The lady interviewing, and Maurice goes, "Yeah, Tkachuk had a broken sternum." And you see her do like a double take, and she's like, "What?" Like puts the mic right back up, a broken sternum. And then Maurice said, I think he had said 4 other players, or one of 4 players with broken bones. So it sounds like Florida was definitely beat up, and it sounded like a lot of these injuries, I don't know if this was specifically Tkachuk's, but a lot of the other injuries happened in the Boston series. Like Paul Maurice was saying, a lot of their injuries happened in the Boston series. I just want to point this out too. I've always noticed this with Paul Maurice, and I think it's just an interesting tidbit. He's always really good with the media, and he always takes all the time to talk to them. And I was reading a story about him. I guess his son works. I think it's his son. I thought it was son or brother. I think it's his son is a media member and covers, I think, hockey. And he said that's why he always team. Yeah, that's why he always gives time to the media, because he thinks I might be cranky or whatever, but this is my son's job too, and I have to respect the media. That's what they're trying to do. So I thought that was just an interesting tidbit I read along the way.
Getting back to the game real quick, Mark Stone got the Golden Knights going in the first period, scoring a shorthanded goal just over midway point, I guess, in period 1. Made a really nice sort of hesitation, kind of stopped.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I think Vegas really figured out what everyone had been saying, go high on Bobrovsky, and scored a really nice goal. He would add 2 other goals in the game to finish with a hat trick for the captain. I read a bunch of articles that detailed his health issues over the past couple of years, 2 major back surgeries, including one again during the season. Well, actually after the new year, and came back, I think, in the Western Conference Finals. And so that's a pretty cool story for their captain to have to go through that. Rehab is never fun. Back surgeries are awful. And be a major contributor to their team winning the cup.
I think there needs to be an NHL investigation into Mark Stone's knob on his stick. Did you see that thing? It is like, it is massive. It's this huge chunk of stick at the top. It's pretty crazy. I'd love to know the reasoning behind that. I think other guys have it too. Probably figured it out. Works probably with the flex or how they shoot and get leverage.
Then the Golden Knights scored again. I think it was off of a Eichel backhand that was rebounded by Nicholas Hague, I think. But funny thing there again is Bobrovsky did the stick throwing move, which actually kind of worked out, because it was a stick that originally had prevented the puck from going in, but then there was a scrum underneath them and they put the puck in. And honestly, at that point, it felt like, well, even when you get the first goal shorthanded and you don't have your best player in the game and you're not at home, so the Vegas crowd, of course, went totally bananas. It felt like it was going to be a tough night for Florida. They did get 1 goal back early in the second period with Aaron Ekblad scoring to get it to 2-1. But then through the rest of the second and into the third, Vegas scored the next 5 goals. So it ended up being a total blowout. Kind of cool to see Jonathan Marchessault win the Conn Smythe as one of the original 6. Like they call them like the misfits, I guess. You're seeing that everywhere in articles. He had obviously a great playoffs. I think he finished with, something like 25 points or 13 goals. He had 1 less point than Eichel, who I guess would have been the other candidate. Eichel had scored, I think, 6 goals and had 20 assists, and compared to Marchessault's 13 goals, 25 assists. And maybe Adin Hill would have been the other candidate. So from what you were able to watch during the Cup Finals, do you think Marchessault was the right choice for the Conn Smythe?
I think so. Every game that I could actually watch a little bit or even see some highlights, he seemed like he was all over the place. Played a fantastic series. I have no problem with that issue with him getting the Conn Smythe. Well deserved.
And now kind of the big picture stuff. Troy, it's crazy to me how much success Vegas has had in the, 6 years or whatever that they've been in the NHL. But it's their second Stanley Cup Finals. Have they maybe they missed the playoffs 1 year or something like that? I didn't look up all the details, but what a start for a franchise.
Yeah, it is. They did everything right from the minute they had the expansion draft. When I think after the expansion draft, their first year, some of the people were like, "Oh, this team doesn't look like much," and here they come flying out of the gates. And is that the year they made the Stanley Cup Finals that year? Right? I think in their first year of existence. So yeah, they have done something right there in Vegas.
I think it proves that for all the million things the NHL screws up, their expansion model and how they bring on teams is really super effective. And especially whatever tweaks they made recently, where you think of like how successful Seattle's been too.
Mm-hmm.
As we grew up, and it really didn't matter the sport, whether it's basketball or baseball or football or anything. It's like when I think the prevailing thought was, well, a town's going to get an expansion team, and for the next 20 years, they're going to be horrible.
Be happy you got a team. Don't expect any success. And that's out the window. Now success is kind of expected, and you have examples of it.
Which is great for the league.
Yep.
Because who wants to have a 15-year slog to be relevant? Looking at I think the player stories, we talked about Mark Stone. You have Marchessault, who won the Conn Smythe. Jack Eichel wins a Stanley Cup before.
Yep. Now we'll hear that for 3,000 times in the offseason.
Yeah, that'll be the big talking point. He, of course, overcame his neck injuries. This was his first playoff run, so that's not bad. I think he's talked glowingly about the culture in Vegas, and I think we mentioned that too. Like, seems like that their ownership group is pretty awesome. That they make it very, very comfortable for the players. Boy, what a town to win the Stanley Cup in! Can you imagine?
Yeah, well, part of that team too. Like, it's weird being in Vegas, man. I think you need to create that culture of a team, and because let's be honest, there's a lot of temptations in Vegas, so you need that culture of team first. Probably having having the best family facilities, family guys. Keep everything in house. Don't go crazy and give into the Vegas lifestyle.
Maybe don't sign Evander Kane.
Yeah, that might hurt.
So do you think Eichel winning the Stanley Cup, does that prop up permanently or level him up from a hobby perspective? I'm going to be controversial and say no. I don't know if I buy that, but do you feel differently than I?
I can see it maybe a little bit, but Michael's that weird. He had such a hype coming in, but then he kind of struggled. But now he's on the upturn again, and now he gets a cup. So I think there should be a little bump, but who knows? Maybe those couple years in Buffalo and affected how the hobby looks at him going forward, and maybe he needs more success to really prop up and stay at that next level from a value perspective.
I had checked last night, and right after, I didn't have time this morning, but almost immediately after the Game 5 win, there was a couple young guns that had popped on eBay. So again, he's a 2015 young gun. His PSA 10 is a pop 1013. I think it's one more than last time. So one more trickled in. Was selling for about 230 US. What's crazy about that is that it had spiked. You remember how hot of a start he had to the season? Yeah. It had spiked to 290 in November.
Oh, wow.
So it's actually still less than... Now, who knows what will happen these next couple of days? I'm sure there'll be a lot of collectors that want to commemorate their team winning the Stanley Cup by overpaying for their players' hockey cards, which is a right. I'm not knocking it. It's what I would do too if the Wild ever won. So we'll see what happens there. To me, the other biggest player story coming out of the Golden Knights win is really the emergence of Adin Hill.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine at this point he won't be the number one guy heading into next season, given how fantastic he was for the playoffs. And remember, he didn't play at all in the first round.
And plus, coming into the season, Vegas had a plethora of goalies hanging around, and to have him emerge and be the one that takes to the cup, that's pretty awesome.
You have to wonder if they'll try to keep him and Logan Thompson, because that's the other guy who was playing very, very well. Another young goalie. I think he's a year younger than Adin Hill. Or if one of them ends up moving, too. So it'll be very interesting to see how that shakes out. Because anytime a team wins a championship, regardless of the sport, there's always, they can't keep everyone. I think there's going to be a lot of people very, very interested in Barbashev. He seems to be the guy. someone had said that they had heard that he might have interest in going to the Blackhawks and playing with Bedard. I have no idea if that is true or not, but I thought, boy, what a great player to team up with Bedard. And if I was with the Blackhawks, that's a move I'd be very interested in making. I don't know, though. You think of like, okay, you're a guy like Barbashev, you just won the Stanley Cup. And I know it's going to be very, very exciting next season with Bedard on the Blackhawks. But if anyone thinks they're going to be good, I think you're foolish at this point. So I don't know what appetite I would have as a player to go from a Stanley Cup winning team to probably a team that won't make the playoffs.
Yeah. Money speaks.
Money speaks. That's true. So I did, just like with Eichel, I was curious late last night. And remember, Adin Hill's Young Guns has had a Papa 1. I guarantee you that changes in the very near future. Might be 2 or 3 already. So really is raw Young Guns most, and it was hitting around 60 US last night for a raw Young Gun. Now, keep in mind, in mid-February, this was anywhere from $2 to $4.
Yep.
So that's you could have gobbled up a lot of Adin Hills in February and done very, very well. Any other hobby relevant points that you want to make from the Golden Knights, or you think of lasting impact of them winning the Stanley Cup?
Not off the top of my head. I'm still very interested in what their goalie situation is. I was looking it up. They had 5 goalies play for them this year. I forgot about Jonathan Quick. We even had some games with them, but now I remember back. I was like, oh, yeah. But yeah, I'm interested in how their goalie situation stacks up.
I think like Adin Hill might be a UFA or a restricted free agent. They might have to sign almost all these guys. So it will be a little bit of a mystery for a bit to kind of figure out what they're going to end up doing. And then switching to Florida, of course, not the end result that they were looking for. They're a little bit of the Cinderella story, and the wheels definitely fell off in the Stanley Cup Finals. Maybe, like you said, the injuries caught up to them. I don't know, though. You got to give Vegas credit. They're just a solid team that is tough, really, to do anything against. I do believe, though, that Matthew Tkachuk has done enough, really, in the past 2 years, let a little bit, especially in this playoffs before he got hurt, where I don't know what you think, but my thought is that, he's a hobby star at this point. He kind of
agree. Oh yeah, agree. It was his coming out party, and he enjoyed every moment of it, and he played up the part of the anti-hero. It was fantastic.
Now, his card market has been white hot, and it's going to cool down. So, and I would, if you are excited about Tkachuk, he's still pretty young, 26, 27, something like that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And there is probably still a little bit, still very much in his prime. I would wait a month or so. I think you'll get a lot better deals than even right now. So that would be my little advice on Tkachuk.
That's it.
Anything else before we close the door on the? Before
we close the door, I know most of our listeners will know this, but the greatest tradition in sports is, one, the hockey handshake line, but second, the cup is given to the players. It's the trophy that's given to the players after they win it. Every other sport, like the major ones, it's given to the owner or whoever represents the ownership group. Hockey's the only one that gives it to the players, so that's awesome.
Yeah, Riley Smith, and it seems like it's a big deal who the first guy to get the cup from the captain is.
Yeah.
And Mark Stone gave it to Riley Smith, who is one of those original 6 members still remaining from their first season. The other thing along those lines that I thought was really cool, and you don't, again, see in the other sports, is they're out there forever with that cup, and they invite everybody that works for. So if you're in the marketing department, they're up holding the Stanley Cup, which is awesome, right? And it really, I think, is emblematic of that. It's a total organizational effort to pull off a victory like that, and so to give those people that moment is pretty awesome. Yeah,
we now need to find the stories of where the cup went last night after the game. I know that was one of the interview questions to Eichel, and he's like, I don't know. He's like, who knows? Someone's planning something, but that'll be interesting to see.
Well, it's the off season, Troy.
It's the off season.
It's no more hockey games to report. The struggle bus goes into storage at this point. Maybe we'll
have to fire it up if some crazy off season news happens. But right now the struggle bus is in for repairs.
Okay, I want to make a quick mention for Gongshow partner sponsor Slab Sharks. Thank you to them for their continued support of our show. A reminder, the current weekly Slab Sharks auction ends tonight, so go to slabsharks.com for a link to the auction, place your bids. If you do end up missing the auction, no worries. Once one auction ends, of course, the next week's auction begins, so there's always great cards that you can add to your collection. If you're a Canadian hockey card collector and are looking to move some of your cards and turn them into cash money, we'd recommend checking out Slab Sharks eBay consignment services, again at slabsharks.com. They make it super easy to sell your cards by basically doing all the work, handling all the hassles. They also get lots of eyeballs on your cards via their very popular eBay auctions, and the fact they ship to the U.S. too, which that's a big hassle. And nice that they do. Again, visit slabsharks.com for complete consignment information. Okay, we have a couple news items in hobby news we want to get to really quick. So, Troy, what was your favorite Snoop Dogg owns an NHL team moment?
Man, I'm sad. I wanted a crazy buying group with Snoop, and I just feel like they've been so high profile, and seeing Snoop out there constantly talking about the Senators would have been fantastic. But
it was Ryan Reynolds, and then it was The Weeknd and Snoop and all these guys. Well, it ends up being a group led by Michael Andlauer has won the bid to purchase the Senators. Looks like the purchase price will be close to $1.95 billion, I think is what I saw. Andlauer is currently a minority owner of the Montreal Canadiens. I think owns 10%, so he'll need to divest his stake there before the Senators' purchase is complete. The sale is considered pending as they'll need NHL Board of Governors approval before it's made official. Andlauer is a 57-year-old billionaire who made his money apparently in transportation and logistics, whatever that means, within the healthcare sector. Bottom line, Troy, is we predicted this 100%.
Yeah,
so we would have never predicted who would have won the Stanley Cup, but a billionaire, rich, old white guy is a pretty safe bet anytime you're looking to or trying to guess who's going to buy a sports team. So that happened. Hopefully he spends a lot of money because they're an exciting young group of players and creates a culture where they can be successful. That would be good. The other item that we wanted to mention is there's a huge Gretzky jersey sale. So have you ever heard of this company, Gray Flannel Auctions?
No, I have not. And I went out to their website just as you said that, because some of these companies I never heard of, I always crack up because their websites look from they're 20 years old. But this one looks kind of modern. But no, I haven't heard of them. Who knows? Maybe they're really well known and we're just idiots. But I have not heard of them.
They seem to have a niche in NHL jerseys because I think a lot of the biggest sales ever have come from them. I just never heard of them. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, a signed Rangers jersey worn by Wayne Gretzky when he scored his final point, the 2,857th of his career, Troy, just sold for $715,120 US, which is a record for a US-based hockey jersey, beating out Mike Urizione's 1980 Miracle on Ice jersey that sold for $657,250 in 2013. It's sometimes funny, like how we stretch maybe to create records, right? US-based hockey jersey. It's like
the greatest players list. There's always some crazy way you could say these first player to ever score on a full moon during the summer solstice or whatever. It's funny, but I love that stuff.
Regardless, it's the third most expensive autographed hockey jersey to ever sell publicly. The biggest sales were, number one, Gretzky's final Oilers jersey sold for $1.452 million. And then Paul Henderson's Canada national team signed jersey worn during the 1972 Summit Series against the Soviet Union went for $1.275 million in 2010. Wow. That's a big price.
Well, that just shows you, again, how big that Summit Series was, where in the U.S. it wasn't a big deal, but in Canada it was huge, and then flip-flop the Miracle on Ice, where in the U.S. it was huge, but in Canada it was kind of like, all right.
Then I don't know why this is not really relevant to, I guess, jersey sales, but maybe jersey numbers. And this makes sense to me, but I thought it was worth mentioning because I hadn't admittedly connected the dots. But so interesting note I saw in the article is Gretzky's 99 is only one of three numbers in all of major professional sports to be retired league-wide. The other two are Jackie Robinson's 42 in Major League Baseball, which that's that's probably the one most people know because MLB does a good job in every ballpark, right? It's usually some sort of placard or something like that to 42. And then most recently, Bill Russell's number 6 in the NBA after he passed away, I think last June or something like that. The NBA did that. So that's pretty crazy to have Gretzky's 99 as one of only 3 in all major professional sports, but fitting nonetheless. Okay, you had mentioned the game plan. We have a new sponsor of our show, a company that we're really, really excited about. One of our listeners and friends, Neil at Irish Flyers Collector, had sent me a link to this company. And once I saw the wallets and products that they produce from used hockey equipment, a lot of them NHL players, I was instantly blown away and mesmerized by them. And we've been talking over the past month. They have really kind of an amazing story. And kind of like we talked about with my card post, one of the things that is really important to me, and I think you too, Troy, is if we can find companies that are entrepreneurial, right? They're not big major corporations. They're just a guy or a couple guys or a gal that really have that entrepreneurial spirit and want to build a company, but then also companies that come out of hockey. Both Joe and Zach, who founded Second String Leather Company, are hockey goalie coaches and lifelong hockey players and lifelong hockey fans. And so I just think that that's an amazing story. I think really to get their products, you have to see them. I promise you that you will be like, holy cow. So I do encourage you at some point to go to secondstringleathercompany.com, check out their products. They have given us a discount code that you can save some money with them too if you're interested in buying any. We're going to be doing some giveaways and have a lot of stuff planned with Second String, but they just have a great story. So we're going to roll the interview now and hope you enjoy hearing Joe and Zach's story, how they built their company. All right, we are super excited and pleased to add new Gongshow sponsor and partner, Second String Leather Company, and we have the co-founders, Joe Messina and Zach Smith, who are here to talk about their amazing products. And this is kind of a funny story. One of our listeners and friends, Neil, who actually he filled in for you, Troy, when you were on vacation. He had messaged us one day and he said, "Have you seen this company?" and sent a link to Second String. And I had no idea what you guys did. Went to your website and my mind was instantly blown. You guys have the most amazing products, and I think you all will be really interested to and hear about what they do and really the connection to, which we think is such a great fit into hockey collectors, because I'll just oversimplify it for a second, but you guys take old vintage or maybe even newer, we'll see in a second, hockey equipment like goalie pads or leather gloves and make amazing products out of them, like wallets and keychains and Apple Watch bands or other electronic watch bands, etc. So, hey, Joe. Hey, Zach. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Okay, so the other thing that is kind of interesting about this conversation, I should start out with, is there are 3 hockey goalie coaches right here, right now, and one idiot who isn't, and I'll just
come on now,
go out there and say that I'm the idiot. So if you guys want to geek out at any point, just let me know, and we'll I'll start looking at my card collection or something like that. So that's I think the other kind of cool thing is that you guys come from a hockey background. So maybe that's a good place for us to start, is really kind of explaining sort of your background in hockey and how you guys got the idea to start Second String.
Go ahead.
Born and raised in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I literally started skating when I was, I think, 3 years old, and I yet to leave the ice. I think I started playing goalie full-time when I was 8 years old, and probably even before that, probably 6, tried it out, and I loved it. And obviously, everybody gets a chance to play goalie at the young age, so I couldn't really do it full-time until, I don't know, probably Pee-wees or so is when I started doing that full time. So just been playing goalie all my life, basically, and played a little college hockey, and actually ran into this guy, the ice rink that I used to work at in my hometown here in Walker, Michigan. He approached me one day, and he was actually selling a goalie mask, because he owns a goalie mask company as well. I kind of just brushed him off and like, I don't want it. So just typical salesman he is. So I'm just like, nah, I'm good. But then come to find out, he was my goalie coach in college then. And we pretty much stuck together since then. So,
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Joe, you actually coached Zach at the position.
I did at Davenport University. So I've been there since 2005, and I'm still there actually. But that's sort of where, I met Zach. I think we were trying to like narrow down the date. It was probably like the year. It was probably
had to be 05, 06 or
because
something.
you were still playing high school.
Yeah.
So we used to do our hockey camps at the rink that he worked at, as he mentioned, and I'm trying to peddle our goalie helmets that I have. I sell or I own Mass Marvel goalie helmets. So I'm trying to sell him a helmet, and he brushed me off. But then we sort of stayed connected, and it's amazing how hockey sort of brings you around full circle. It's always a small little tight knit community, and my love and passion for the sport is never left. So it's hockey 24/7. No matter if it's teaching goalies or working on our company, it's something that I really thrive in, is just being involved in the hockey community.
Where did the idea to take goalie equipment and create wallets and other awesome leather products, where did that start or come from?
Honestly, it wasn't even our first idea. I wanted to get involved with hockey more than I was. I was just obviously playing, and he asked me to help goalie coach with him for a little while, and I really wanted to get into hockey more and have that be part of the rest of my life. So we just were brainstorming for probably a good, at least a year.
Yeah,
I think it was at least a year, just kind of spitballing ideas and stuff like that. And we happened to come across something on Instagram one day of somebody repurposing, I don't even know what it was.
It was like a baseball glove or something?
I don't know. They repurposed something and made a wallet out of it. And I was like, what if we did that with hockey gear? That would be off the charts.
Yeah. And I don't think we ever saw anything of the sort, at least in my travels. I haven't seen anything of the sorts in years past. But that was the one idea that when he threw it out there, it was like, I think you're onto something. And it was random because he called me at like 2 a.m. with the idea. And I'm like, what? It was just the most, I thought something happened. He's calling me randomly at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm thinking something happened, but he had this idea. And the tough part with the idea is that you have this great idea, but how do you implement it? And we've always been thinking out how to do it correctly, from like just as simple as our logo to our packaging to how things are made. There's a thought behind everything that we do, and that's just who we are. Sort of like our brand is, we try to really put some thought behind it, because as we grew the company, we've found out hockey means a lot to people, whether it's from an equipment standpoint or from a piece that they may have used in a championship game, or they could be from their grandparents or their father. There's a lot of sentimental value tied to those pieces. So as we grew the company, it was just amazing to see how these pieces had such a large effect on our end user on a daily basis, which was awesome.
I think we're overthinkers.
Yeah,
sometimes.
We definitely are.
A lot of times. I don't know. I'm sure our wives would tell us the same thing, but we probably sat on the idea for another year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before actually implementing it, doing anything about it. We literally text every day.
Yeah.
Golly, it's ridiculous how much we text, but back then was like, hey, what about this? Well, we could do this, or we could do that. Still within that idea, but it's like, okay, what are we actually going to do about it to move forward with it?
And I think one day I just called him and said, we're doing this. Let's put the money in, let's go, and let's start. That's sort of how we jumped off the deep end, and we just started swimming and kept on going.
How many years ago was this now?
We probably came up with the idea late 2017, early 18.
Yep.
And then our first launch was May 29 of 19.
Had you guys ever had any experience making anything out of leather before this?
No.
And
that was, I think that was the tough part, was trying to find a team of leather craftsmen that could build the pieces and have the vision that we had in our mind to put it forth. And we looked around and we talked to various people, and we just,
you don't see those people every day.
Especially in the sewing industry, it's an art. That's the best way to put it. It's truly an art to sew and craft these pieces. And we have a team of leather craftsmen that are they're artists. I mean, they really are. And we're lucky enough that the gentleman that we use and the team that we have is right here in Grand Rapids, and they're like 15 minutes away, and we go there on a regular basis to go check in. We're always planning ahead. So we're all, like right now, as we were talking off air, we're getting ready for Christmas, like we're building out our collection for Christmas. So we're 6 months ahead trying to put things in place to, so we have successful launches we've learned to try to stay ahead of things as we progress the company into 2023, 2024. It's just always trying to be prepared for stuff. Like Zach said, we overthink things, we overplan things, but if you want to be successful, I think you really can't fly by the seat of your pants anymore, because there's so much that we do with social media, with, our website. We have a lot of moving parts in our pieces that we collect and how they're crafted. So there's a lot of things that go on, I think, behind the scenes that we just try to stay ahead of on a daily basis.
Going into finding somebody, I'm pretty sure we had talked to one other gentleman. He couldn't do it. And then he referred us to our leather craftsman that we have now. And I'm pretty sure we sent him an email on like Friday. We walked into his shop on Sunday and we started buying gear on Monday.
And it's amazing because
that's awesome.
We changed his life and he changed our life. I mean, we've probably built out 40,000 pieces since 2019. I mean, to be honest with you, he's an artist, like I said, but he's grown to love and appreciate hockey because of like our excitement and how we thrive in the sport. He takes excitement in that. It's pretty cool to see like how he has the eye and the vision for things. Like we'll tell him about the branding and the name, and it's clockwork now. It really is. I mean, I think we're going on collection now 15 or 16 now, and it just keeps growing. I think our first collection launch in May of 2019 had maybe a couple hundred pieces, and now we're doing thousands of pieces on these launches just to try to keep up with the demand. Not just on launch day, but from launch day to when we close it out and we're getting ready for our next collection. So that's usually about a 3-month window. So we have to build enough pieces to last us good 90 to 120 days before we launch our next collection. So we've learned along the way, like I said, of like, how we have to produce these pieces.
It's
so we don't.
Big learning curve, I think, for everybody.
Oh, of course.
Of course. When we walked in, he didn't know anything about hockey. We didn't know anything about leather. So it's like we made a perfect team. We brought the love for hockey and he brought the love for leather, and we created this monster.
And the cool part is that he challenges us with like adding new products and doing new things and just throwing out ideas, and we're throwing out ideas, and it's truly become this special company that has a lot of meaning behind it. Because we even went through COVID with this company, and our company grew significantly during COVID because people, I always say it, like people didn't really have a lot to really talk about during COVID other than the stuff that they were seeing on the news. But we gave them something special to pull out of their back pocket, to have a conversation starter piece. It was
while they bought something online.
Exactly. They couldn't go shopping in retail. I mean, it was just cool to sort of see like how pulling out a wallet and having maybe it's your favorite goalie or your favorite team or your favorite colors. It's got something that it speaks to the individual and their love for the sport and passion for hockey.
One of the things that really stood out to me initially about your products is not only are you taking goalie equipment and kind of cutting it up a little bit and really intertwining it into the design of a wallet. And you have all different sizes, shapes, different wallet types, because there's bifold, trifold, slotted wallets, all those sort of things that anyone can go on to your website at secondstringleather.com and check out, is that there's an elegance to it too. Like a lot of times, like the outside of the wallet looks like a normal, nice leather wallet. It's like, we'll have black or gray or brown stitching. But then when you open up the wallet, then it's like, whoa, right? Then there's Andrea Vasilevsky's, one of his like pads there, like a blocker or a piece of that. And there's the puck marks on it where you can see that this is actually used by specific players. And so and that's what really stood out to me, because I think that you guys really have found a nice balance between having that wow factor in your product, but still making them be everyday use too. And where you're not like, you don't feel stupid pulling out your wallet because it looks like weird contraption that doesn't make sense. It still looks like a wallet. It still looks elegant and really nice, but it has that wow factor as well. Does that make sense? Or is that really intentional on your part?
I think the one thing that we where we started and where we're at now. I mean, when we originally started, we were just doing vintage equipment with brown leather and red stitching. That was like our
trademark.
Yeah, that was our signature with the red stitching. And then as we grew, we got into different leathers, and we've worked with bigger tanneries in the United States to, acquire some of this just beautiful leather that it just changes the complexity of our wallets, of how they're presented. I mean, some of the leather that we're using, like we use a tannery out of Chicago called Horween Leather, which is really high-end leather. And we were actually able to go to Horween a few years back, and we actually met the current owner of Horween, Skip, and he's fourth generation Horween. So they started Horween, I think, in the late 1800s in downtown Chicago, same area.
Same building,
and they've been there ever since.
Sure.
And I mean, the leather that they use is, used by Nike, Johnson Murphy, Patagonia, Birkenstock, and we're using that same leather on our wallets. And when people get that stuff, it brings it to a whole nother level. It truly does. And I like to think that our whole staff is perfectionists, from our IT guys to our designers to our craftsmen to Zach and I. But I think people get that when they get our products. Like, they are put together not just nicely, but there's a lot of thought in the packaging. There's a lot of thought in how it's presented. And when they get it in the mail, it's sort of like an experience when you not just order it, but receive it, open it, display it, and use it on a daily basis. It's an experience. And that's sort of how we've really built our platform of our company, is on the little intricate details, because that has a lot of meaning to somebody. I mean, they're not the everyday wallet that you go to your local department store and you have 40 in the row that are just black or brown or navy blue. I mean, they have, each one of these are one of one. They have unique colors and designs, and each one speaks to, the individual, like I said before. And I think that's sort of something special to somebody nowadays, is like having something that someone doesn't have, like having, like, just like someone has a unique sports car, the individual has a unique wallet that's one of one, that, is like Andre Vasilevsky's, that's got his name plate on it, or a piece of his blocker with a puck mark. It's got a story behind it. And I think that's the cool part, is that every piece we make has a story behind it that is shared by the end user when they pull it out of their back pocket.
And I think, Joe, that's a really important point that you're making. And in the hockey hobby, and as collectors, what we value most is scarcity and rarity. So, we all want a one-on-one card so that we can say, I have this card of Vasilevsky or Igor Shesterkin, or, I'm just kind of on the goalie theme. I know you guys don't just do exclusively goalie products, but to know that when somebody buys a wallet from you that has this memorabilia really sewn into it and is integral to the design, that you're really getting a one-of-one piece, that you have the only wallet that is exactly like that has that piece of memorabilia in it. And so, not only I think does that make it kind of special as a collector and someone that loves memorabilia and loves the game of hockey, it's also, to me, a fantastic conversation piece. Because like I said, when I can just imagine the instances where somebody takes out the wallet and it looks like a normal wallet on the outside, and they open it, they see the goalie memorabilia or the pad memorabilia on there, that these people must get a million questions like, what is that? What a great story you can tell that, well, this is part of Cam Talbot's blocker or glove, and it's a unique piece. There's nothing else like it in the world. To me, that's just an amazing story to tell. Well, I wanted to talk about just a list, or to get some ideas so our audience understands, like, who are some of the players you guys have worked with now and are there any ones that you're planning on working with in the future, or that people can look forward to seeing soon?
Jeez, it's a pretty long list, actually, of players that we've done their equipment. We got Henrik Lundqvist. Obviously, that's probably one of the biggest names we've done. And we actually made stuff for him and his foundation. So
have you worked with him directly? Because as anyone knows on TNT, he is as buttoned up as a human being can be, and I'm guessing he's extremely particular.
Yeah, we made stuff for him. He didn't ask for it, but we did make stuff for his foundation. We try to send each goalie that we make products from, we try to send them a piece out of appreciation, for what they've done for the game and all that. So, yeah, we've done a lot of players. Mike Vernon, Vasilevsky, Henrik Lundqvist, Pecorine,
Darren Pang,
Kevin
Weeks, Tom Barrasso.
Troy just fell over because Pekka's his favorite player of all time.
I literally just texted Josh because I'm on your website, and I just almost panicked. I'm like, Pekka Rinne's on here. I'm in your NHL collaboration section, and there's Pekka Rinne stuff. I'm just asking you straight up. Is Pekka Rinne stuff still available?
No, unfortunately not.
Dang it.
That was made for the Nashville Predators. That was actually made for his jersey retirement ceremony.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome! I love it.
Some of those, and that to be honest with you, that's sort of how we've done 2 collections with Nashville now.
Yeah, Saros is on here too. I see.
Yes, we did Saros and Rittich this past year. When we did the first collection with the Preds Foundation and the Nashville Predators, some of the pieces were going for over $1,000, and their staff was like,
wow.
His signed jersey $1,600, but your wallet was like at a close second at $1,200. They were just blown away. So it's pretty cool to work. You know, we've worked with the Detroit Red Wings, LA Kings. We've worked with Vaughn goalie equipment. So we ended up doing Jimmy Howard 500th NHL game. We got his glove and blocker from Vaughn Sports, and we made some pieces for Jimmy and his wife and the kids. Yeah, because at the time his wife was just having their, I think, 4th child, maybe.
Sure. I don't know.
And we made like a baby bag. It was pretty cool. I mean, it's just, you know, special pieces like that. Just, again, you know, they have the story behind it. We actually sent some stuff at Christmas time to Vasilevsky and to him in Tampa. We've done Olaf Kolzig, Grant Fuhr, Felix Potvin. The list goes on and on. And we've really focused, like we've changed our focus because that's what people want is the NHL players, whether it's a player or a goalie. The NHL team means a lot to the consumer to have that like little extra story behind their wallet. So we've gone away from just the normal branded stuff and got more into the NHL gear. And so now that we work with the NHL teams and some of the equipment managers and manufacturers, it's really propelled us forward into like that next level of designing a wallet that speaks to the end user.
Would you do Pekka Rinne again if Troy guaranteed he'd buy everything? I think is that the question you want to ask Troy?
No, I was going to ask. I'm going to say, okay, next time you guys clean out your office, you know, and you're checking behind a couch, and there's some Pekka Rinne thing fell down there. I'm your guy. You just come to me. Yeah. I will buy
his wallets. I will say, when we did his wallets, they were pretty sweet. They would have like the 35 stamped on there. We used the real high-end leather from Horween and the Tannery in Chicago with the yellow stitch. It was awesome. But
yeah, there's pictures on your website. They look awesome. I'm very sad that I missed or that they're not for sale, but I get it.
Yeah, a little thing that we actually added into those was we added the gray accents because when he first started with them, they had the silver gray on their jerseys. We added those little accents.
Cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it.
We talk a lot with companies like Upper Deck that make hockey cards, and very similar to what you do. When there's a card that has a jersey patch in it or a jersey swatch, that there's a big part of their business that's in memorabilia procurement. And we've learned a little bit from these companies that it's not getting easier to get equipment and to get memorabilia pieces. So has that been and I know, like you said, Joe, that this is what people want. And so how have you guys kind of navigated through that? Has it become harder to get the equipment from players, or probably more expensive, or all those sort of things?
Honestly, Zach and I are big hockey like equipment junkies. So we are always hunting, and we have about 3 or 4 people that sort of help us as well. Like, finding stuff, they might send us a link or send us some information, send us pictures. For me, like, I know obviously you talked about Zach's playing past, but for me, like, I grew up in Detroit, hockey hotbed in Detroit with the Red Wings, and growing up playing amateur hockey, AAA hockey and stuff like that. So I was lucky enough to have a job at Bob Pirani's Hockey World growing up. So I worked in a hockey shop when I was 16, 17, 18 years old, and I fell in love with equipment then, and I was a gear junkie, customizing the equipment and just having that love for coming up with cool colors for the equipment to wear for the upcoming season and getting custom made pads and stuff like that for my teams. I just think that sort of stuck with me because, we are always hunting. That's like the biggest, I think, thrill of it all is, you hunt for a piece, you find a piece, you finally get it into your collection, and it's like your prized possession. And then our excitement is brought to the pieces And it's cool to see, like, hey, I remember when we bought that piece, and I remember how we made it, and I remember how we put it up on the website, because Zach does all the photography, and like to see it from start to finish, and then when it goes out, it's a pretty cool feeling to see how it sort of ends up being a kick-ass wallet at the end that people are going to appreciate, because we worked so hard to get that piece originally. It just says a lot about our dedication and sort of how we want this company to sort of like go to the next level. Is we work hard trying to find some really, really unique pieces.
Like you said, so you guys work on collections. How many collections do you do a year? Is it 4?
3.
Like basically around the season?
Yeah,
3.
Right now, we just learned is that you're preparing for the next collection, which will come out end of summer. Mm-hmm. And so in advance of that, you'll kind of put over the leftover stuff from the previous collection on sale, and that just started.
Correct.
Right? Not too long ago. And so there's a great opportunity if anyone wants to check out the products at Second String to go to your website at secondstringleather.com. Again, link is in the show description too, and get some great savings on some of the products that you guys have. But you guys have also been very generous in working with us too, and offering our listeners an additional 15% discount. So if you use the code Gongshow15, you can save an additional 15%. And I just think it's a great opportunity because like good hockey cards, some of you guys are sourcing NHL equipment, and you're creating custom one-of-one wallets that are, I really agree with you, are art pieces. You're not cheaping out on materials by any stretch, and using the finest leathers. And so there's a couple of products I plan on buying, and I was looking earlier today, but it's a great time. So again, use the code Gongshow15 and take advantage of the sale you guys have right now. So you're planning your next collection. Is there anything like you can, like, I assume that you make tweaks or you grow and learn from previous stuff. What are some things that you're working on right now that maybe you haven't done, or new players, or anything you can tell us about kind of what's next and we can look forward to
we try to keep that stuff under wraps, but the one thing that was pretty cool, like in this collection that's currently on sale, is our new 4-slot wallet. So we launched a new wallet, the 4-slot. So it's a little bit smaller than our 6 slots, a little bit bigger than our 3 slots. So it's like that happy medium. So we actually launched a new wallet in the spring 2022. We actually brought out a new bag line. So we have like messenger bags, we have like travel bags now. And so that's the other cool part, is that we really listen to our customers, and we listen to some of the goalies or players that they want to see in future collections. So I think the new collection that will be coming out at the end of the summer is going to really touch on some teams and players that we haven't done in the past that are going to be pretty exciting for people. And then it's pretty unique because we landed a large amount of hockey player gloves about a year ago. We bought about 70 player gloves. And these are from like the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And we've been going through those, and there are a lot of them from the NHL, original 6, and there's some NCAA ones in there as well. But just to sort of stuff that you just really don't see anymore, to be able to take those gloves and turn them into some unique pieces from the player perspective, because that's sort of another division of our company that we've really grown, is the player division. And there's really not a lot that we can do from all the various equipment that players use, but their gloves that's where the majority of the material that comes from is the player gloves. But we do make, out of hockey sticks, we do make our accessories like pizza cutters, ice cream scoops, bottle openers, utility knives that are made from blades and hockey sticks. So there is some other things that we do with hockey sticks and player knives that are incorporated into some of our kitchen accessories. And we actually have some new ones coming in stock here in the next week or two that are currently being made right now by our blacksmith. So those are some unique things that we have coming out, but we try to keep everything under wraps, from the actual players' names, just because we try to keep it sort of for social media and for our email list, because we do have a large following. So when we present those to our fans, they seem to get really riled up and excited about future players that are coming out in the future collections.
No, I understand it. It's just our job to ask. And one of the things that I've been thinking about the last couple of days too, and I've kind of got an example in my hand, and what I think is really unique about what you guys do, especially with your wallets, as a fan of memorabilia, and so I have right here, I'm showing, you see on my screen, it's a Splendor. It's a, I can't remember, it's like a 2016, 2017. It's a Ray Bork. It's a game used stick auto out of 12, right? So very similar to, it's not 1-1 like your wallets, but the thought that I had is, what's so neat about having memorabilia in a wallet is it's something that you can naturally use and take with you every day. As I'm sure a lot of people would love to know about this card, but I'm not going to carry it around in my back pocket every day, and I'm not going to the friend's poker game or something like that whip it out either. And so it's really, I think, as fans of the game and as fans of memorabilia, it's the amount that you actually get to enjoy the memorabilia because you're using it all the time. I think is a really kind of neat aspect about what you guys do. I
appreciate it. Well, that's like the other thing too, that, Zach, like I said, takes all the photos, and I mean, we probably do 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, depending on the size of the collection.
Photos?
Yeah. Okay, more than that, maybe. So Zach's the photo guy.
Don't talk to me about photos.
Yeah, he poo-pooed that number. He's like, no, it's way more than that.
Yeah, it takes a couple.
You don't pay me enough.
I mean, with the amount of products, there's 2-3 shots per product.
So it's a lot. I'm not a good math guy, but
yeah, and they're all unique, right? So you can't take one shot where every wallet or every keychain or every watch band is, you have to take one for every single piece.
Every angle you see is one shot. Everything.
Zach gets Zach has more gray hair than I do.
Don't talk to me during that entire week. Exactly. Don't even text me. Don't call me. Nothing.
He's very grumpy that week. One of the biggest things that we invested in this past year was a big photo editing software. So it speeds up the process from taking the photo, editing it, and getting it ready for our IT guy. That was a game changer in Zach's mind. Mm-hmm. Definitely cost us a little bit, but it shows you how we've grown from 2019 going into 2024 in a couple months. You sort of learn as you go, and we've been lucky enough that we got some really good people on our team that just push us along and challenge us. Like Zach said earlier in the podcast, we're perfectionists. So we are always thinking, we overthink things. We're always analyzing everything. But these days, if you want to be successful, you have to do those little things in order to get to the next level.
And what I think is crazy, I think the first collection, maybe even the second one, I took all the photos by hand, not with a tripod or anything. I was trying to get the exact angle of everything all the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, my arms are going to fall off.
That speaks to hockey card collectors, because I guarantee every listener on this has sold a card, and the first thing you do is take a picture of it, and you realize how bad you are at taking pictures and lighting and how important that stuff is. Yeah. I'm going to say this, though. Your pictures are great on the website.
Thank you.
And I want everyone, if they ever want to see just how sick some of these products can look, go to your Hall of Fame part on your website.
Great ones.
These things are ridiculous. Like the Vasilevsky, the Fuhrer, the Lundqvist. Just to give you an idea of the quality and how these look, these are fantastic. And then you look at those, and then you go shop. Yeah. And then you start finding stuff, which I plan to do as well.
I appreciate that. Well, we appreciate that. But obviously the photos, they look sweet. But once you get it in your hand, it's a whole new level. It's like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm. We don't have a brick and mortar store, so we have our website, but people all the time are like, I ordered this off your website, but I received it in person. It's like, it's better than I anticipated. The way that you package it. So we usually do a sticker, a business card, a hockey card in there. And it's just, it adds a little bit of excitement. So when you unpackage it from because we actually have our boxes are actually vintage waffle board blockers.
That's
our
awesome.
Packaging is actually a blocker. That's actually the box that the wallet sits in is actually a blocker. And so I think when people pull it out, they're shocked. It's almost in a collector box, basically. Yeah. And Zach pushed the envelope a lot for 6 months. We got to make our packaging better. And we researched it, and we developed it, and we designed it, and it just came out awesome. It truly set us to a whole nother level of, instead of wrapping it in tissue paper and sticking it in an envelope, truly getting a commemorative box when you get our wallet. That just makes it that much more special.
You're getting a $200-$300 wallet, you better have $200 or $300 packaging.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I was thinking. Hey, you need to have the experience of getting that wallet, but let's make it even better with the little extra add-ons or even the box. We actually did make Pecorine boxes for Nashville for his wallets. So,
got any of those laying around still? I'm just kidding.
Now you're just rubbing it in.
Yeah, now you're rubbing it in. No, that's awesome. I saw a picture of those on the website too. They look great. Those boxes, they look awesome.
Another thing that people can, and I recommend people doing this because it is really cool. You have a video on your site that highlights your custom program. Mm-hmm. So if any of you are old, former, I always think of like Al Bundy from Married with Children, and I played high school football, right? So if you were a high school hockey player or college hockey player, and you've got some of your old team's equipment down in the basement or storage locker, people can send you their old equipment, and you'll make a whole slew, not just a wallet, but you'll make like keychains and watch bands, as opposed to that stuff just sitting there and in a bag somewhere, never seeing the light of day. And allowing people to have that nostalgia to their playing days and be able to connect with that experience. So how did that come about where you guys started doing custom work like that?
It's actually something that we wanted to do right away, but we were just like, we have no idea how to go about that. As far as implementing how we're doing it now, it was just like, I just think we had way too much going on to add that in. So I think we started that probably a year and a half, 2 years later.
Yeah.
From when we started. I'll be honest with you, when we started this company, I didn't expect the reaction or the tugging on the heartstrings that people get with products.
Yes.
Especially we had a lady email us, I think it was her dad's pads or something like that, that were stored away, and she sent them to us, and we made custom stuff for him and sent it to him. I think it was around Christmas time, so she gave it to him for Christmas, and she's like, I've never seen my dad cry, and that was the first time I've seen him cry when he pulled out his wallet.
Oh, wow.
That kind of took us back, and we like, I got choked up thinking about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's unbelievable. I was able to be a part of that, or we were able to be a part of that. That's really, really cool for us to be able to offer that. And something that's personal and near and dear to your heart, or maybe it was your dad's pads or whoever. So it's something that we didn't really think about, like how it would tug on people's heartstrings like that.
If people are interested in doing that, they just contact you basically on your website? I assume that's a very intimate and sort of custom where you guys talk with people and kind of figure out what they want, or how does that process work?
Yeah, we have a section on our website for both player and goalie that they can go to under the custom program tab, and it just sort of drops down. There's like a little customizer, and it just shows you the products that we offer. They can contact us via email to sort of get the initial steps going, because we do ask to send some photos of the equipment, and then we sort of go back and forth about what they want to have curated and made. And it's probably about because of our production schedule, we do have slots for our custom work, so it's probably about anywhere from 8 to 10 weeks to do the custom program stuff. We just did a bunch for high school and college graduation presents, so we actually have some really cool ones that are going to be coming out on our social media here the next couple of days, because they just really recently received it. And like you said, with that video that we have about the custom program, and that took us a year to shoot, to be honest with you. And that was we have our main video that sort of showcases our company. We've had that since the beginning, since 2019, but we actually just came out with the custom program video, I think in the fall
last year
in 2022. And it took about a year to shoot, because we had about 5 different locations that we shot that video in, and, showing the goalie buying the equipment, showing the goalie using the equipment, showing the goalie basically retiring from the sport, and then contacting us to curate these pieces, and then giving it to him and his family at the end was truly special. So it was pretty cool to sort of see it from literally start to finish of how these pieces come into our hands to curate for these people for the custom program. And it was well received, and we were really proud of it to get that out there to show our potential customers and just, viewers in general, this is something that we really take seriously with our company, is our custom program, because we've done some really cool custom pieces for individuals, from NHL CEOs down to sons and daughters that are doing it for their dad or their grandpa that played hockey when they were younger. And just, it's got that sentimental value to it that you really can't put a price tag on it. And I think people are just super excited when they get it because it's, like Zach said, that there's such value behind those pieces. So it's obviously we do our NHL stuff with the NHL players, but this stuff has like, hey, this was my dad's stuff when he played high school hockey in the 70s or the early 80s. He was my mentor. He's my best friend. And we've even done some, I think, groomsmen's gifts too. Mm-hmm. So it's got some uniqueness and that specialty to it that just takes it to a whole nother level, which in the beginning, like Zach said, we never really even thought about with how it was going to tug on people's heartstrings with these pieces. But in the end, it truly does. And we're honored to send these pieces to these people because I think 2 years ago, we had a woman that she played college hockey in Michigan at Wayne State University, and her mom paid for her college all the way through. And I don't think she was on a full ride or anything because she did play NCAA D1 college hockey. But I don't think she was on like a full scholarship by any means. But I think she became a veterinarian. And what she wanted with these pieces was to give it to her mother as a thank you for supporting her through hockey like all those years. It was so cool because she did a tote bag, she did keychains and like a catch-all tray and like a belt. There's so much meaning behind that. And when they send a letter and just say thank you, we don't expect them to send us a letter after they get the pieces, but we usually do get these nice letters that thank you for, taking care of these pieces because they have so much meaning behind them. And
you're going to make me cry.
Yeah, you'll be able to connect somebody's past and give that and make them. We all love to be nostalgic. I should have asked you guys this earlier, but I'm just curious. So we've already established Troy loves Pekka Rinne. Who are you guys as goalie goats? Like, who is your favorite goalies for each of you?
I think, that's another one. We've done Ed Belfour stuff too. So, me growing up the early to mid 90s, you got to go Belfour, Felix Potvin, John Van Beesbrook. We haven't done anything from Van Beesbrook. No. But Potvin, obviously Grant Fuhr, those are all iconic goaltenders that I grew up watching and sort of like emulating when I was playing hockey or, street hockey.
Have you guys ever done any of the really vintage guys like Terry Sawchuk's or Jerry Cheever or...
I think some of them, the oldest, would probably be our player gloves. And I don't know exactly where a lot of them have come from, but we have some ones that are from like the 60s that were from like Detroit Red Wings, Chicago Blackhawks that are just all leather Cooper from the 60s that you can't even find these anymore that are like even intact. And so those are probably some of the oldest pieces that we've done outside of maybe the 1970s Cooper goalie pads or like I know people people like the waffle board blocker. Oh yeah. Use some of the wallets off the waffle board blocker, but those are becoming hard to find. But when we do find them, and we'll have them in actually in our summer collection here in the next 2 months. They have like such a cool look to them that people they buy them right away. It's just it's just something that just speaks vintage goaltending when you see a board blocker.
I'll tell you what, if you get Ron Hextall stuff, I will buy all that too because I can just imagine. I want my whatever product I get. We talk about wallets a lot here because to us wallets are very easy to visualize, but there's also other stuff. But if I had a wallet of Ron Hextall, just imagining that he wore that blocker or glove when he hacked someone or slashed them as they skated in front of him.
That's funny.
I would love that.
What about your guy, Pelle Lindbergh?
But you say hacking or whacking.
Yeah, screw the save part. I like that he was ready to fight everyone. Yeah, Pelle Lindbergh too, but I got to believe that stuff is so rare to find any of his stuff.
Yeah, he unfortunately passed really early on. Anything else that people really should know about your company or the current products that you have out now? And again, I can't recommend enough for people to go to secondstringleather.com and check out your products. Like I think I told you, Joe, earlier, we're going to do our best to expose your amazing products to hockey card collectors who I know are going to love them. And then our deal is, in turn, Troy and I are going to make you and Zach degenerate hockey card collectors along the way.
Hey,
so get ready.
We have a lot of hockey
for
cards
that.
in our
got a
shop.
ton.
I just found a whole bunch. I was just telling Zach, I was back in Detroit at my parents' house, and my mother's like, "Hey, I have a bunch of your old hockey cards. You want to?"
There we go.
Packaging, and these are from like I have early '80s, like they're from like '81, '82, top scratch off. These are super old. I'm like, sure, we'll take them. So I got some Paul.
Did you scratch them?
I did not. No. I was always told never scratch them off. The scratch off. Keep them as is. But there's some pretty old ones, and there's some like, and Zach's like, more hockey cards. We have so many in our studio, but we send, like 1 or 2 with every order. There's a couple that go in there. So we go through a lot of hockey cards, but it's pretty cool to like pull out a hockey card that just randomly, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's from like, 87. Just cool to take a look at that photo. It's, because I know hockey cards have changed over the years, and even like the quality of the picture, but to see some of those old cards and old names, it just sort of like brings you back in time a little bit when you see those cards.
I'm not from that time.
You sure aren't.
Did either of you guys, so you collected as a kid, Joe, Zach, did you collect hockey cards growing up at all?
Big time.
Yeah.
Who are your favorite players? Like, who is in your personal collection? The guys that
my all-time favorite's Mike Vernon. Basically, followed him around his whole career.
Literally got a picture of him with him.
Yeah.
Too.
Yep. Got a few pictures with him.
Nice.
I mean, everything that I have of his is signed by him. So I've met him like probably 2 or 3 times. He's definitely my all-time favorite. But right now, Marc-Andre Fleury, he's my go-to.
Oh boy. Troy has his issues a little bit with Flower.
Fleury has struggled with the Wild, and he's getting up in age. You gotta be honest. He's not a spring chicken, but he's only like 3 years off of Vezina.
Yeah, so I mean, you can't. There's no way you can hate the guy either. Like, he is such a kind-hearted dude, just down to earth.
Well, our favorite moment was he skated out. He was ready to throw down. I can't remember who it was with, but he goes out there and the ref stops him, and he's like, come on, the fans want to see it. He's like trying to get him to let him go at it. Yeah, that was awesome.
It's classic.
He is an awesome guy, and they've done a lot of profiles of him here. And I think where we just kind of laugh at him is he makes every save an adventure. Like, Troy's always like, you would never teach someone to play goalie like Flower, because he's flopping this way and then that.
But I think he's like, with how old he is now, that was kind of the style that he was brought up to be playing. Now, obviously, the game has changed so much. He hasn't really adapted to that, per se, I guess. Some things, yes. But as far as the full RVH on the post, by the time they're at the hash marks, crap, it's not there for him.
Well, it's funny you say that, because Lundqvist was one guy who kind of tried to adapt at the end. It's funny to hear Lundqvist was a big VH guy. We're going way off into goalie world, but he was a big VH guy. And I remember one time on TNT, he was talking about RVH and how he was a big VH guy and the difference. And it's kind of fun to hear.
I'm still a big VH guy. Like, I'm way too short to do RVH.
Zach still straps him on and plays, man.
Unless it's like behind the net there, I'll go down to my post, but try to be on my feet as much as I can.
Bad hips, bad groin.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you guys very much. We really appreciate you joining and telling your story. Like I've said a million times on our show, we absolutely love to highlight companies that are deeply rooted in hockey, that come from or are born from hockey enthusiasts. And I think you guys have just done such an amazing job of integrating the game into these amazing everyday products. And we're really excited to work with you. And I can't wait to hear from our listeners, their kind of feedback once they haven't seen your website or they don't own one of your products already, once they kind of see how cool your stuff is.
Well, thanks for having us today. We appreciate it.
Okay, we're back. Great guys, huh? I was a little out of, I felt a little insecure because I'm the only non-goalie coach in the group.
It's a great story. I love hearing about. It's funny because I didn't say this in an interview, but when I first thought they were talking about how they had this idea, they kind of sat on it for like a year. And then it was almost another year before they said, okay, now we're doing this. Where you look at us as a gong show and a bunch of idiots, we had an idea. 4 seconds later, we're buying microphones, trying to figure out how to do this thing, and have no plan.
Still trying to figure out how to do it.
Still trying to figure out no plan whatsoever. So that was very interesting to me, and how thoughtful they were. And just, it's a great story. They're cool products. You go to the website and see the stuff. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, I had to go to the website to see the stuff, and then I was like, holy cow, this is cool. And they have a lot of good stuff out there. If you listen to the interview, you heard about me go gaga over the Pekka Rinne stuff, which was kind of a special one-off thing they did. But yeah, there's some great looking stuff on their site. Check it out.
You're 100% right. It's a fantastic idea. It makes a lot of sense, but that's not enough in business. It's the execution. Yeah. It's the quality of their products that really, I think is what blows you away, right? Because they've executed on it so well. So I'm just a really big fan. We're ordering stuff right now, and so we'll be able to talk about our experience. And like they kind of mentioned, they put a lot of work into packaging and really making it a great and memorable experience. And I think all that stuff matters. So happy to be working with those guys. Okay, we got to switch over to our...
Hold on. We got to tell them about the discount code.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Yeah, just a reminder, Gongshow 15. You can save 15% on any of their products, and I believe it's on top of anything that is, because they're currently clearancing out their last collection as they get ready to make room for the new one. So that's compounded savings, and be sure to use the code Gongshow 15.
Yeah, I don't know if it can be uppercase or lowercase on the G, but I'm reading the email where they sent it to us. Capital GONGSHO 15.
There you go. Okay, now we're going to switch over to our PWCC weekly preview. Of course, they sponsor our show as well, and we're very grateful to them. As we do each Thursday, Troy and I pick out a few of our favorite vintage and modern hockey cards from the huge amount, 630 cards in this week's auction. But I think that's the most that they've had, so that's really awesome to see that ramping up. We'll only talk about a few, but you can see all 630 at pwccmarketplace.com. Okay, Troy, let's dig into our favorites. And as we normally do, we'll start with our vintage picks. So I'll start. Card that stood out to me right away is one of my favorite sets, of course, 1951 Parkhurst Bernard Boom Boom Geoffrion rookie card. It's number 14 in the set. This is an SGC 7 near mint, so pretty high grade for 1951 Parkhurst. It's always difficult for me not to pick a card from this set. I just love it so much. Easily one of my top sets ever, I think, as I just mentioned. Awesome card. Honestly, it looks really good in the SGC holder. I know some people don't prefer, and it's very subjective, or love the black backdrop of the tuxedo folder that SGC uses, but I like to see the Parkhurst cards in there.
Yep.
They just look really good. Centering is not perfect on this card, but it's very good. It's much better left to right than top to bottom. A little more thinner on the top. What really gets me, though, about this specific card is the depth and richness of the color. The color is amazing on it. And it's an action shot of Boom Boom. You don't see a lot of those back in the day, and so I really appreciate that. Let's just say, too, as far as nicknames go, Boom Boom is pretty awesome.
Yeah, Boom Boom's great.
I wasn't a big fan of the Factor for Ryan O'Reilly, but I do love... I know we're on different sides there, but I do love Boom Boom. If you're not aware of Boom Boom Geoffrion, he is a Hall of Famer. Played 16 years, Troy, in the NHL for the Montreal Canadiens and the New York Rangers. Geoffrion was named to one of the 100 greatest players of all time in 2017. He began his career in 1951, hence the rookie card and the Parker set of that year. The nickname Boom Boom resulted from his quote-unquote thundering slapshot, for which Geoffrion claimed to have invented while playing junior hockey for Laval National. He's the second player in NHL history to score 50 goals in a season after teammate Rocket Richard, who I think we talked about this last Thursday, and featured one of his 1951 Parkhurst. In his career, Boom Boom scored 393 goals, added 429 assists for 822 points in 883 games played. He won the Art Ross Trophy 2 times. He's a 6-time Stanley Cup champion. Won the Hart Memorial Trophy in 1961. His number 5 was retired by the Canadiens in 2006. And last sale on a 1951 Parkhurst Boom Boom Geoffrion SGC 7 was $1,130 US in September of 2022. Also the all-time high. You got a bid on that?
We are sitting at $300 US right now.
Might have to get in on that. I really, really like this card.
Very, very cool card.
Oh, I see the one that you picked. That was one I was considering. So I'm kind of interested to.
Yeah, I'll start my little spiel here. I went with the 1970 OPG Daryl Sittler rookie, number 218, PSA 8. This is one of those times I went away from the C56, C55, and the Parkhurst cards that I tend to gravitate toward. For my card, obviously, I went with the rookie card of Daryl Sittler. When I saw this card, it kind of jumped out, and I knew it was the one I had to look at for the vintage vintage section for me. What drew me to it is that I know Daryl Sittler is an all-time great. I've heard the name many times. Maple Leaf great. But to be honest, I didn't know that much about him. And that's always one of the drivers for me in this segment is kind of learn more about these players and the cards. So looking at this card, the card is like a front profile picture. I absolutely love the Maple Leafs jersey in this. You can, 70s Maple Leaf jersey. It's very prominent. It says Toronto Maple Leafs, got the big leaf. I also dig that Daryl Sittler looks really happy in this picture. He's got a huge smile on his face. Just looks like he loves being in this photo. He's playing hockey for a living. What else could be going on with life? This is great. So I just love the front, how he's looking, looks happy. Great card. Vibrant color in the card. Centering looks really good. It's a tad off if you zoom in a little. Corner and edges on the front look very nice. If you flip the card over and look at the scan, the back of the card shows a little more fraying around the edges. But again, it's what can be expected from an OPC card from the 70s. Again, color, I think, looks fantastic. Now, one thing on the front of the card that I noticed, I didn't know what the white dots were. Like, if you see this card, there's those couple.
That always throws me off.
Yeah, there's a couple of those white dots. So then I went out and looked at a bunch of other 70s OPC cards, and a lot of them have the white dots. Some have 5, some have 2 and 3, and I guess it's basically lights.
Spotlights is what I would think.
And they added them, so it was an intentional choice. Like, part of me was like, "Is this a mistake?" But no, it's intentional. It's a weird design choice at the time. Maybe it was cool, but it's one of those little quirks that it makes the card what it is, and it's definitely a 1970 OPC card with those white lights. But it is kind of quirky, but it still doesn't really detract that much from a great looking card. Now, again, Daryl Sittler. I had to find out about my man Daryl Sittler, and I just did the very basic of a rundown. But Hall of Famer, named the top 100 players of all time. He had 484 goals. There you go again, Josh. A guy that's short of 500 by 16. 484 goals, 637 assists for 1,121 points in 1,096 games played. So over a point per game player. Played majority of his career with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Best part, holds the record for most points in an NHL game with 10. He had 6 goals and 4 assists against the Bruins on February 7th, 1976. He's also the most recent player to score 6 goals in a game. So his 10 points in a game record still stands to this day.
The only thing that shocks me about that is that it wasn't against the North Stars. Every record is against a Minnesota team. There's Minnesota fatalism.
Yeah, no kidding. A PSA, so this is a PSA 8, and a PSA 8 copy of this card sold most recently on May 21st of this year in the PWCC weekly for $960. A PSA 8 copy also sold on eBay, verified via Terapeak on May 6th of this year for $1,000. So that gives you a pretty good idea of where this card might fall at the end of the day. However, right now it's a steal because the current bid is at $72.
Wow. All right, the last vintage card that we're going to highlight today, I'm going back to the 1951 Parker set. This one is at Alex Delvecchio, another rookie at PSA 4, which is very good to excellent. It is a PWCC A, so it's a top 30% eye appeal rating. That means that of all the Delvecchio PSA 4s, that PWCC considers it in the top 30% as far as how it presents. Of course, I do have a love affair with 1951 Parkers. This, in my mind, is another beauty. Again, although it's a PSA 4, it presents super well. There are some corner issues, but the card is fairly well-centered, has good coloring, just looks really nice. And because it's a PSA 4, it's going to be much more affordable than a PSA 6, 7, or 8 would be. And so it's an opportunity to own an amazing card from an amazing set in a legendary player. And so I'm all about that. I didn't know a lot about Delvecchio, and that's a reason why I think you and I are very similar. We kind of gravitate to these players to basically learn a little bit about them and their career. Hall of Famer who spent his entire 24-season career with the Detroit Red Wings, which lasted from 1951 to 1973. At the time Delvecchio retired Troy, he was second in NHL history in games played, assists, and points.
Wow.
And having played 1,549 games, he's one of only 3 players to play more than 1,500 games with a single team. Ironically, the other 2 guys are both Red Wings.
Yeah, the Red Wings are very loyal.
So Steve Yzerman and Nicholas Lidstrom were the other 2. When Delvecchio retired in 1973, he was immediately named the head coach and general manager of the Red Wings. So he went from a 24-year playing career to immediately becoming the coach and GM. Kind of crazy. He's a 3-time Stanley Cup champion, served as a Red Wings captain for 12 years. Not quite as long as Yzerman, but still pretty cool. Played in 13 All-Star games. His number 10 was retired by the Red Wings in 1991. Like all these guys we seem to cover, Delvecchio was named to the 100 greatest players list in 2017. In last sale for 1951 Parkhurst, Alex Delvecchio PSA 4 was $326 on April 5th. All-time high was a week or so earlier, $359. So, yeah, pretty cheap price for a 1951 Parkhurst Alex Delvecchio. Again, PSA 4 that has that PWCC 30% eye appeal rating. So, really like this card. What's the current bid?
Current bid is $52. And I had to look this up when you talked about games played because during when Delvecchio played a majority of his career, they didn't play 82 games a season. It was 70 games. So that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy.
Well, 24 years. That adds up. Must not have been hurt a lot either. All right, we're going to move over to modern cards. Of any card in the auction, this one really stood out to me and kind of got me down the research rabbit hole. It's a 2019 The Cup Enshrinements. Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, auto grade 10, PSA 8 is a card grade, and the card is serial numbered 10 out of 10. So, of course, not a cup expert or, we're still learning too, even though we're a year plus kind of into this adventure on our show here. But one of the things that we've heard very often is that Crosby rarely, if ever, signs with other players. So you don't see a lot of dual cards or triple auto kind of card deals. And I know that there's some Lemieux autos, which makes all the sense in the world. And so when I saw, well, here's a cup card that's hard signed by both Crosby and McDavid, definitely piqued my interest. This is a great card. Again, worth checking out on pwccmarketplace.com. It's a portrait normal card. It's split into two halves. The top half is basically McDavid, and then the bottom half is Crosby, a little picture of the player, and then a nice auto on there. The autographs, of course, are really nice and sharp, apparent by the PSA Auto 10 grade. And this is by no means a definitive list. I know you're better at this stuff than I am, Troy, but I just did kind of a cursory search on Terapeak and card letter sales history. This is not produced. This is what's sold. I can only find 2 other cards that have sold that have a Crosby and McDavid auto on them. The first was a 2018-19 The Cup Program of Excellence dual auto out of 5. And then this one's worth looking at too. It's a 2019 Parkhurst Tall Boys. It's an achievement card that has a Crosby and McDavid dual auto on it as well. The one thing I was trying to figure out a little bit too about this card is, other than the fact that they're both legendary generational hockey players and they're both from Canada, I'm not sure if there's some sort of binding connection to them like you have with Lemieux and Crosby. So I think it's just a card that you would want if you're a fan of both players and really appreciate the fact that Crosby doesn't seem to do this very often. And so it makes the card pretty unique and scarce.
Do you think Crosby signed it begrudgingly, just angry that he had to sign this card with McDavid on it also? I could see him being I need McDavid's signature on there first so I can see it and make mine better.
Maybe it's like a passing the baton kind of thing.
Yeah. Like you said, generational talents. And what Crosby came in probably, 10 years before McDavid? Does that seem right? I get my draft years mixed up. So.
Well, this card has never sold publicly, and so can't find any prior sale info. My guess is it goes well over $2,000, but we'll have to see. Do you got a current bid?
$1,325.
Pretty strong at this point in the auction.
All right, Josh.
Okay, you got the next one?
Yeah. Did you? I don't know if you saw this one, but this is one.
No, I didn't.
All right. 2016 Black Diamond Run for the Cup. Austin Matthews, rookie out of 99, BGS 8.5, population 1 of 3, 5 graded higher. Okay, I'm going to be very honest about this card. This card jumped out at me just for how it looks. Obviously, I know who Matthews is. To me, it's kind of odd and funny looking at the same time, so I had to look into this thing and see what was going on. So if you look at the card, it's kind of like a die-cut card. It has a circle kind of in the middle with a clearish picture of Matthews, like his profile pic. I haven't seen one of these in hand, so I had to kind of rely on the scans a little bit and then looking up other versions or other pictures of it. So it's got this circle center profile pic of Matthews that seems kind of clear. It's kind of hard to see. And then on the left-hand side, it has his name and then Run for the Cup in very big text in big letters on the left-hand side. What just cracked me up about this card is the picture of Matthews on the bottom center. Now, if you look at it, it looks like the pick was from when he was drafted. He's got a Maple Leafs jersey on. He's got his Maple Leafs hat on. But to me, I just cracked up because it looks like he's walking down the road hitchhiking. And I'm serious. He's like, if you look at what he looks like, he's looking down like the road. His thumb is literally almost out like a hitchhiker. And I just couldn't help myself cracking up from staring at this picture that they used. And I think it's just fantastic. And to me, I would buy that card just for this reason.
It's a pre-mustache card, I assume?
Pre-mustache. It's serial numbered out of 99, which is always nice. In the Cardboard Connection, the Beckett checklist, they had these listed as Run for the Cup silvers. Now, the research I did, there was only the Run for the Cup, and they were all out of 99, but they also had gold parallels. So I don't know where the silver, if that was the name of just the base card, but just remember that the grading doesn't have that silver wording on it. So maybe I just didn't understand something about how this card. I will say the PWCC scans don't do it justice. They're kind of hard to see some of the wording on there, but you can look out and find other pictures on eBay of the card. Because when I found some other pictures, the front had kind of a rainbow look to it. It looks really cool. I bet in hand it looks absolutely fantastic. I think the scans don't do it as much justice, but it's one of those, if you're a Matthews fan and it's kind of a unique, odd card, that it's something to look into. I couldn't find any recent sales of a BGS graded copy. The only thing I could ever find was raw sales, and raw, it went for around the 100 to 160 US dollar range. Right now, This card's current bid is 26 US dollars. It's an 8.5. It might fall right in that range.
So if you're like a little bit of a different card, or not your regular Young Guns, and kind of like off the beaten path stuff like we do,
I want you to build a scene where he's out hitchhiking, because that's what it looks like he's doing on the card.
The last card that we're going to highlight in the modern cards of the 630 in this week's PWCC weekly auction is a 2016 Upper Deck Young Guns Matthew Tkachuk rookie SGC 10, which is a gem mint. So I picked this card, Troy, for two reasons. First, obviously, Matthew Tkachuk cards are really hot right now, and I think a lot of people are chasing him and, of course, want to have a Young Guns gem mint in their collection. And then reason number two is I'm a big believer in sort of the SGC discount, where you can get the same quality of card as a PSA 10 for a lot lower price just because it's in an SGC holder. I think the more the time goes on, the more we learn. I consider Young Guns less and less as sort of investment type cards anyways, or collector cards. It's if you're going to really like a guy or PC him, you're going to want to have his Young Guns because, of course, it's one of his most important cards. But right now, paying $300 plus or something like that for a Tkachuk Young Gun PSA 10, probably not the best idea long-term financially, unless you're willing to hold it for a very, very long time. And I think generally SGC are known as good, tough graders, and you can have confidence in their grade. But that being said, always buy the card and not the grade. So don't just look at the number and go ahead and check it out. I spent some time zooming in. PWCC does have amazing photos, and card looks pretty good to me, but that's a determination you'll need to make for yourself. Just to get in a little bit to that sort of quote-unquote SGC discount factor, from a secondary market point of view, SGC cards have lagged pretty far behind PSA and as far as values go. So case in point, when the Tkachuk PSA 10 Young Guns had spiked over $300 in late May, his SGC 10 had quote-unquote spiked to like $144. So that's like half the value. But now, of course, his cards are coming back down. They're going to come down a little bit. And so his PSA 10, last time I saw last night, was like in the 180 US range too. So I think like if you could get a card like this in the $115, $125 range, in my opinion, that's a pretty good deal. And so I just, like I said, picked this card not because it's so unique or special. Obviously, he's kind of broken through. And I think, as we talked about, in our opinion at least, established himself as a hobby star. And so if you want a gem mint representation of his Young Guns, here's, I think, a really affordable option. Do you have a current bid?
$33 US.
I'd take that.
All day.
For sure. I don't think it'll end there. Okay, we're going to switch over to new product releases. 2021-22 Fleer Ultra is out. This is the EPAC exclusive that had been delayed. So we did purchase a box of Fleer Ultra on EPAC right about the time it was released on Monday. I think it came out at noon Pacific time. Had to do a fair amount of experimentation because we wanted to do our pack opening videos.
It looked great. It looked great.
Thanks. Well, I had bought like 2 packs of CHL. It's just like, because I had to kind of see. Admittedly, I don't do a lot of e-pack buying. Yeah. You seem to have got the bug a little bit, but
they're gonna make me go broke when SP Legends or SP Signature Edition Legends comes out. I will go broke.
No,
I'm just gonna say that right now.
Well, the first thing we learned is the price, because we had been,
we didn't know it.
Everything we had seen had not included the price. And what was our guess? I think it was kind of right in the middle of both.
I think you said 130 and I said 160 for some reason, but it was right in the middle. Take the difference.
145. Yeah, $145. I think right off the bat, I give Upper Deck a lot of credit for just their e-pack process. I don't know if I love the digital experience, but their user interface and user experience, it's so easy to use. Mm-hmm. It's so intuitive. You're not ever confused as far as when you buy a box. It's like, open my packs, and it really easily guides you through the process. So kudos to them there for how they've structured their e-pack platform. I mentioned we started our pack opening videos. I think we've done 2 or 3 at this point, so be sure to check those out on our Instagram. It was a little awkward with e-pack, but we figured it out. And I'll be honest, Troy, it's hard to give the most detailed instant reactions when you don't have the product in hand, but I'm going to try here. So the first thing I'll say is, remember now with e-pack, the base cards are digital only, and then any sort of quote-unquote hits or inserts or any autos, anything like that, are physical, and you can transfer those to ComC, sell them, or eBay them, or get them sent to you at your house or wherever you live. So out of the 121 total cards in the 15 packs we opened, there were 46 physical cards, so call it 46 hits. Mm-hmm. That's not bad as far as like what you get out of a box, right? Kind of doing the math, if on average each were worth $3, then you would break even, but that's on average. I got to kind of start, though, with my biggest beef on the whole e-pack experience, and it has to do with the images. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a distinctive difference in the images between the digital-only cards and the cards that have physical attributes. So the digital-onlys are not probably images, they're just design files that were sent us, so they're very crisp and clear. And then, as part of the delay, I think Billy Celio had mentioned that ComC was scanning the physical cards. I don't know this for sure, and someone maybe can answer it for us and message us, but I almost wonder if they scan every card individually. So, or if it's like one. So if there's a card that's out of 399 as an example, do they do one scan? But no, they can't, because they have to do
them all, because you got to have the serial number on it so you know what cards you're getting if you decide to redeem it.
Totally just realized that too. So you're right. So that's a lot of cards, I'm sure, that they, like thousands, right? That they're having to scan and catalog and organize. And I can totally appreciate how big of a job that probably is. But the image quality, Troy, is terrible.
Yeah. I was going to say, the first question I asked you when I looked at what I watched our pack opening video, and I asked you, I said, is the player's name on the front of some of these cards? Because I don't see it, or it's really hidden. And you had to kind of walk me through like what you were saying about the image quality.
The scans are really dull, first of all, so they don't make the cards look good, and they're blurry.
Yeah, and these are on the physical cards, right? These are the physical hits.
These are the physical ones. Yeah. The digital only ones, like I said, I think are just design files, so that they look pretty good regardless. But there was one of ours that was serial numbered that I had to spend about 5 minutes trying to figure out what it was out of.
Yeah.
It was sort of a lossy kind of design file too. So as you zoomed in, it got blurrier. And I literally couldn't tell that this card was out of $399. And it really bums me out for a couple reasons. Number one, I know how much work that they put into designing really cool looking cards. And Billy will always say, these look so much better in hand. Yep. And I'm inclined to probably believe him. And there's a number of these that I just want to see in hand. And so even with a great image, it wouldn't have the same effect, but they need to figure this out. They need to work with ComC and, I don't know, maybe explain to them that, because it creates a bad perception, right? This is, you're opening these boxes, you see, we got a couple really nice hits and cards that Billy's told us just look amazing, where the image quality is just dull.
Yeah.
It doesn't look exciting or good at all. And so I don't know what the solution is. I'm sure that it's a time and money and quality and whatever cameras that they use or scanners that they use. But at the end of the day, if somebody's spending $145 on a box and they're opening it and they get these cards and they're bad representations of what the card actually is, that hurts you.
Yep.
There's no way that helps you as a business. You can't make the argument that says we're better off and we're going to sell more and we're going to get people more excited about this set because having the image quality that we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me to ultimately get more invested into e-pack only products, that's an improvement that I would want to see. I don't know. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I mean, I had trouble seeing some of the images, and I just had to take a double take and actually texted or called you and asked you about it. So yeah, it's one of those things. It's a problem that can be solved. It just comes down to partnerships and cost, I guess, is what at the end of the day. Now, like you said, you're going to at some point probably redeem or get these sent so we can actually see the hits in hand and maybe give an update on our reaction a little bit.
Again, and that goes back to, I think I really like the product, but I don't know because I can't tell how nice these cards are.
Yep.
Because of the quality of the images. But there's a really great variety. I think the designs look really cool. I'm super interested to see cards like the Padman with all the little die cuts around the nets and all that.
You have to give you were on ComC doing your refresh, watching the cards just pop up, and seeing how much.
Yeah, that was fun on release day. That is one kind of fun thing about ePack is every second for the first few hours, there's more cards being added to ComC, and just to see what the prices people were asking and the amount of cards being added was pretty cool. We'll do some secondary market value stuff probably on Monday's show. It's still really too early to kind of get a good read there. Be sure to watch our pack opening videos. We did pull some really cool cards. So now the interesting part about this show in particular, as we transition to, it is 2021 Upper Deck Ice release day as well, but we are recording before Ice is out. And so we're going to have this weird transition soon to future Josh, who's going to go to the card shop soon, buy a box of Ice, open it, and you're super, super busy today being goalie coach, baseball coach, and worker guy.
Yep. And
so you're kind of out for that. So say hi to future Josh, Troy.
Yeah. Hi, future Josh. Hope you get a massive hit in your ice box.
Yeah, that would be nice for us. In a second here, we'll kind of swoosh over to that, and I'll give you my future instant reaction to Upper Deck Ice. Well, hi, this is future Josh reporting for duty fresh off opening a hobby box of 2021-22 Upper Deck Ice. So I went to our local hobby shop this morning, picked up a box for $130 US, which is pretty consistent, I think, from what pre-sale pricing was on sites like Steel City and Dave & Adams and Blowout. And given what we had talked about last episode, I was actually pretty excited for this one because it has a dual rookie class in the form of a 2020 bonus pack. And sure enough, right when you open the box, the pack was sitting right there on top. But I do want to start, though, talking about the 2021 designs first. And let's start with the base set. I know the most exciting. But honestly, I actually really like the base card design from 2021 Upper Deck Ice. It's got a clean look to it, kind of has that icy design motif that you would expect from a set named Upper Deck Ice, and has really deep, colorful action shots of the players and just a really nice looking base card that I like looking at as I was opening the packs. Might be my favorite base card set design from any box that I've opened in quite a while. Each pack does have at least one, or did have at least one base parallel. The most common was the green parallel, which I think is one in every 2 packs for vets and one in every 3 packs for rookies. And the color parallels from base, they kind of have a speckled rainbow almost look to the background of them with whatever color of that parallel. The only other colored one that we got was got a couple orange, which are 1 out of 9 packs for vets and 1 out of 18 for rookies. But as far as a cheap or common insert that every pack is going to have another really great design, and really like them and happy to have them in my collection. In Ice, though, the most notable cards are always going to be the Ice Premiers, which again has that extra E on the end of it. I think it's the Canadian spelling. On average, I think you get 3 per box. These are acetate cards that have parallels as well. It starts with green at $7.99 and then goes to red at $3.99, gold at $25, and then a black version that's $101. If you are a acetate fan, I think you'll really like the cards. The design is awesome. It's got some foiling on it, so it doesn't just look like a cheap acetate card. Especially, we didn't get any of the gold or the black 101, but really, really like the enhancement to the red out of $3.99. You can tell it's better kind of looking card and better printing technology went into it. So really enjoyed the Ice Premier cards. There's exquisite inserts that if you're lucky enough to get, you can get some big hits, and those always, again, are going to be awesome. And I don't know, just in general, like I said, I like the design. I like the inserts. I thought that they were cool. Who knows what the secondary market value is going to be, but there's multiple hits in every pack. Lots of color, lots of shiny stuff, acetate mixed in there. So honestly, it's a pretty fun box to open. What it's going to boil down to for you, I think, in this product is just what are the names that you're going to get, and are you going to get any of the more rare parallels? It doesn't have a huge rookie checklist, but out of 50 rookies, there's going to be a good chunk of those that are not as exciting as a Cole Caulfield or Trevor Zegras or Sider, Raymond, Swayman, those type of players. That's really what it's going to come down to. But the cards themselves are pretty awesome. Jumping over to the 2020 bonus pack, I would say the same thing. A lot of that's going to come down to the names. I will say, though, that the card design wasn't as nice as 2021. It's a little bit different, a little more plain. The Ice Premier we got was numbered out like $1,299 or something like that, and kind of real cheap, flimsy, not as nice as the 2021 versions. But I do like the 2020 rookie class a lot better than 2021. So I think that there's the opportunity to get some big hits. And just overall, like I said, a great fun box to open at $130. I think a pretty decent price. And there's a chance with the dual rookie class to hit some big cards. In the next couple weeks, we'll probably give our value and collector ratings. We need to let the product sink in a little bit, see what happens with values on the secondary markets. But overall, a lot of fun. And I don't think you'll be too disappointed if you go out and get a box for yourself. All right, Future Josh signing off. Back to the show. All right, before we move on to listener mailbag, just want to make a kind of a special and quick mention and announcement for My Card Post. Mark from My Card Post had reached out and asked us to share information on a incentive that they're doing in June that I think is kind of really cool. So basically, they're doing a giveaway. And this month, if you make any sort of deal, so if you buy a card, which you don't have to have a paid membership to do on My Card Post, you can just sign up for free and buy cards all you want. Or if you have a selling subscription and you sell or trade, for every transaction or deal, you get one entry into a drawing that'll be done at the end of the month. They did this last month on trades and had tons of people really excited about that. But their prize list is pretty cool. So one person's going to win a 2019 OPG Platinum Hobby Box. That's not too bad. Maybe get a nice Jack Hughes or Cale Makar, Nick Suzuki rookie out of that. You also get a Zion case, which is pretty awesome. My Card Post t-shirt and 3 months membership, either new membership or added to your existing membership on My Card Post. So be sure to head to mycardpost.com and do some deals and hopefully win a pretty awesome Zion case and box of 2019 OPG Platinum. Okay, on to listener mailbag. Had some great questions again this week. Man, we get these questions that really make you think, which is kind of... So spent a lot of time kind of thinking and researching. We, as we always do, sort of kind of frickin' fracked it. Each took kind of the lead on certain questions. But we'll get started with the Gongshow Discord. Here's a question from Pure on MCP. Speaking of My Card Post, right in his name. Do you think the Young Gun acetate will become the downtown insert of hockey? That's a really good question, and maybe kind of ponder it for a little while. I don't really know. I'm a big fan of the Young Gun acetate, but I think there's a couple of, whether you call it issues or reasons, Pure, why it, in my mind, it might not be the downtown equivalent for hockey. So the first reason I point to is I think there's a big amount of collectors. I don't know what the percentage would be, but I think it's big, that don't even or couldn't tell you the difference between Young Guns acetate and a Young Guns clear cut.
Up until,
which if you're going to be like
up until last week, that was probably me.
Yeah. And if you're going to be like a Downtown or Kaboom or kind of huge, iconic insert in the hobby, not being able to distinguish it from another card is probably an issue in that regard. And then the second reason I would point to is I know that there's lots of acetate set collectors, and these are very, very limited. And so I think that maybe that's part of the reason why they're priced so high, other than they're very cool cards. And I have noticed that too, like just in chatting with people on Instagram and getting comments, that there's a lot of people that are very much acetate specific. Mm-hmm. Boy, that's an expensive way to collect. Yeah. I'll tell you that right now, because we've seen some of the prices, like the Brant Clark Young Guns acetate for like $750. We talked about last show. Not a cheap set to collect, that's for sure. I do like the fact though that, and where it does share a characteristic of like a Downtown or Kaboom, is that it does appear in multiple sets, and that's one of the things that we've talked about before. But I don't know if it quite meets that criteria for me. What do you think, Troy?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe what I always think about with Downtowns, and even throw in Kabooms and Color Blasts, is that they're also kind of artistic. Those cards have an artistic style. Sure. They're not just a plain photo. Like Kabooms, Downtowns have the art, or I think Home Field Advance. I don't think they're as big as those, but same kind of concept. And maybe that's getting away from the spirit of the question, but that's one of the things I think about too. And I guess the closest, we do have Fanimation, but I've never thought Fanimation's gotten to that realm, but it is that start with more artistic interpretation of a card. So that's my thoughts on it.
That's a great point. Okay, next question from Instagram, JB Hockey Cards. Should I trade my Slavkovsky Young Gun clear cut? Oh, here we go, right away. Right, here's a clear cut. For a PSA 10 Drake Batherson speckled rainbow foil. So as much as I want to give you a here's what you should do answer, these are questions that are very uncomfortable for us, JB, because there's so many factors that go into it. And so I think the best I can do is outline for you the decision-making process that I would go through, because ultimately whether you should trade a card or not is up to you. And there's, I think, as many sort of subjective and personal and reasons as there are based on numbers and data and facts that you could use. So the first thing I would do is try to figure out what the values are and, comping them out, and whether it be Card Ladder, Market Movers, eBay sales history, Terapeak, or 130 point, right, would be your most common resources to do that, to make sure that you're comfortable with value of card A versus value of card B. Next, in this case, you didn't say Batherson is a rookie, so I don't know, but I would typically give an advantage to a rookie card versus a non-rookie card. So as I'm kind of trying to weight each side of the scale, I would give an advantage there. Next thing I would consider is replaceability. Which card is harder to replace later? If you decide, oh, I'm happy with the card I got, but I really want the card I traded to, and I think you would give an edge to a card that is harder to replace, because those tend to be more scarce and have greater value opportunity. And then the last thing you got to, and this is the hardest part, is determine what's the potential. And with a guy like Slavkovsky, that's hard to do because he's very, very young. He got hurt. He didn't play a lot in the NHL this past year. And so it's a risk, I guess, at some point. What we typically do is we try to look back at their history as a player. You can go to websites like Quant Hockey and see whether they played in juniors or in European leagues, and look at their performance, look at their goal scoring pedigree, look at what sort of point per game they had, because typically goal scorers aren't just created at 22 years old. They've scored goals their whole life. I guess those are the things that I would consider when making this decision. That's probably the best we can do. I mean, do you have anything to add to that, Troy?
No, that's the perfect breakdown. That's how I'd look at it as well.
Okay, next question from Instagram, Father Son Slabs. After a player's true RPA from the cup, how would you rank the other variations from a collector-investor perspective? If it's a cup product, does it have to have patch and some ink? Super good question, and get a little uncomfortable here for another reason, and primarily because I think of like a guy like Mitch Grotman anytime there's a cup question, and he's probably going to like cringe and throw up when he hears my answer, because I know about 4% of what he does about the cup, but it is a great question, right? So you have your true RPA, and then what are the next best cards? And does it have to be a patch auto? I think from an investing perspective, patch autos are also going to have the highest desirability, the highest upside. And so I think, from that, even though there are some cool auto products, There's a lot of inserts in the cup that I really enjoy as a collector. But looking at sort of like that next tier down from the true RPA, there's a couple that kind of stand out, and there's two really. It's the exquisite patch autos and the limited logos. Like if I think are one of the most desired cup cards, it's that true RPA, exquisite patch, and limited logo cards. There's also some super limited cards that fall into the patch auto category that I don't know where to place because it's hard to, because there's so few, but these would be like the shield autos, of course, that can be 2 of 2 or 1 of 1 or out of 5 or something like that. And then the monumental rookie patch auto booklets that are very limited as well. So I don't know where you'd factor in cards that have under 10 kind of print runs. And then the next tier beyond that is, and this is where my lack of or still growing knowledge of the cup really factors in. And I'm kind of interested to see if you feel the same way, Troy. You look at subsets like emblems of endorsements, honorable numbers, scripted sticks or scripted swatches, signature materials. They all kind of seem to jumble into sort of the same category for me. I have no idea how to kind of create a hierarchy for those cards.
Agree. Well, it's funny you said you know about 4% of Mitch Grotman. I know about 1% of what you know. So I'm in like 0.0001% of Mitch Grotman's knowledge.
And Mitch is an awesome guy and is willing to answer basically any question. So if you have a real specific need to know question, I'm sure if you reach out to him on Instagram, he'd be happy to answer you. Okay, next question from Mail Day Cards. Why does Beckett get no respect? Just got a Jack Eichel Young Gun, all 9.5s for $65. So that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, you probably you want him to keep not having respect because if you can get cheap cards, that's a good win.
When it comes to Beckett, it's almost like, where do you start? I think there's a lot of reasons as to why their reputation and respect level is down right now. But to me, they all lead back to poor leadership and poor strategic choices. Whether it's their serious lack of innovation, to bungled product announcements, poor website, lack of online submission system, which I know they now have, but they didn't for a long time. Their customer service issues, maybe. It's all added up, and a once great company in the hobby is really now kind of a shell of its former self. It's really hurt their reputation. And the value we put on cards that are graded by company A versus company B is all perceptive value. So when the perception of your company suffers, that's bound to really hurt your values. So it's kind of sad. Like, I'm not rooting against Beckett, but they're in a bad place.
Yep.
They do have a new CEO, though. I have no idea if he's good or bad, but hopeful that he'll be good. And like I said, certainly not rooting against them. So hopefully they'll make some smart moves. And what I really think they need to do is play the long game. If they try to go into like quick fix mode, it's not going to work. They need to realize that they screwed up and they've damaged their reputation. And like I tell my kids all the time, is that it's kind of like trust, right? Trust is easy to lose and hard to rebuild. And your kind of reputation, I think, falls under the same category. So if they have a 2-3 year plan and make smart moves and are patient and really are earnest in their effort to rebuild connections with their customers and serve them well, then hopefully they can come back.
Agree.
What do you think?
Very well said. Yeah. You kind of mentioned, my first thought with Beckett now always comes back to that: stop reacting and be thoughtful. Be thoughtful about your next steps. Don't be so knee-jerk reaction, because that's really hurt them in the last couple of years.
Next question is from Instagram, South Bay Finest Gabe. What is a good way to learn how to price cards from new sets? So Gabe, when new sets come out, it's always the hardest to price your cards. And I kind of took my answer from both a buying and a selling perspective. So a set comes out, Upper Deck Ice comes out today. Wednesday, it'll be a day old on Thursday. If you're a buyer, I think when a brand new set comes out, that patience is probably the most prudent thing to do. We've all gotten excited right when a set comes out. We all have looked at sell sheets and found cards that we've been waiting for months and just feel like we have to have it. But I think what you need to realize is that right away when a set comes out, the prices are most likely to be the highest. As I've made really idiotic decisions in this regard, not too long ago, I mean, very, very recent, as recent as Series 2, and I kind of reflected on, well, why the heck was I so dumb? I think that there's a part of us, when we see a card and it's brand new, in that we say, oh, it's $50. Like, our brain is telling us that you got to buy this card now because in 2 days it's going to be $200. But the reality is, and sometimes, sure, I'm sure that's happened. I think though 9 times out of 10, 2-3 days from now, that $50 card is going to be more like 20.
Yeah.
If you're smart and you play the averages and you're a little bit patient, waiting a week or two, you're going to save a lot of money over time. Now you might get quote unquote burned because, every once in a while a card takes off like wildfire, but in the long run, I think you'll be much better off. And then in the short run, as a seller, you sell right away. Yeah, it is hard to know how to price your card. And this is probably not the answer that everyone loves to hear, but it's kind of, and I really learned this from, I think, you, Troy, and what you do to be really successful is if you want to move your cards right away, wait for the first initial sales and list it for 10% less.
Mm-hmm.
Now, everyone, again, our human nature goes back to, well, if some cards just sold for $200, then I should get $225. The reality, though, is that if you list it for $225, remember, these cards are all going to go down. So in 2-3 days, now, mate, you've got this card that you forgot about that's sitting on eBay or whatever at a buy it now offer at $225. They're really selling for $140.
Yep.
You're never going to sell that card. And the reality is even though one just sold 10 minutes ago for $200 and you list yours for $180, that $180 that you get today is going to be, remember, that card could be $120 a week from now. So you're still coming. There's this like that greedy part that's in all of us that wants to get the most, that wants to maximize everything all the time. And sometimes it does work out. Sometimes you set the all-time high for your card. But again, if you go back to playing the law of averages, I think you're much better off taking that pricing approach when a new set comes out to selling your cards. Anything you have to add to that?
No, I agree with that. And like you said, yes, there will be times. And you'll always remember that time when the card went up.
Sure.
That's the one. It's is that the gambler's fallacy or something or you play blackjack. You always remember the time. Yeah. You always remember the time you got burned, or poker. You always remember the bad beats. You don't remember all the other times where you won. It's just that's human nature. But again, law of averages.
It's like lottery tickets. You win $5,000 on a scratch off once in your life and you spend the next 30 years and $50,000 trying to do it again on more scratches. All right, next question from Instagram. It's freaking Polly. This is a really great question that, boy, really gets to the inner workings of the sports card industry. He says CSG Grading has put out that they have a big announcement coming on 6/20, which I must be under a rock because I wasn't aware of that.
I had no clue either. Thank you, It's freaking Polly, for letting us know.
Yeah, for letting us know. With the fact that BlackRock Investment Group, which I have heard of, is deeply invested into CSG's parent company, CGC, and is funded by people to include Michael Rubin, founder of Fanatics, how likely would it be that the news that CSG would be brought under the Fanatics umbrella, which would give them more push in the grading space than the already great move of partnering with ComC? I didn't know that they partnered with ComC either. Did you?
I did not. I didn't know that.
This question makes me feel dumb, Paul.
Yeah.
And it's not your fault.
It's not your fault. Let's just take the crux of what's this big announcement, or if that's the announcement. Boy, we've talked about it before. We've talked about Fanatics and like how they've been buying all the little pieces, right, of getting this, I don't know what you want to call it, one-stop shop. And they haven't had this grading piece, but I just don't know how that would work. It seems like a huge conflict of interest. That's all. That's what it comes down to. I know Topps or Bowman, whatever, they've done the stuff with SGC with grading with the baseball cards. But again, that's an independent, or that's a company separate from them that they made the deal for grading. But if you brought in an in-house or you buy a grading company, I don't know how that is not just a huge conflict of interest. I don't know how that gets through.
Yeah, I don't know if the hobby would stand for that. I'm really not.
Well, think about this.
It is a huge conflict of interest, and I think a really unwise move by Fanatics to do something like that. Like, I'm not like the world's greatest business strategist, and so it's hard for me to see how the chess moves would play out in this scenario, but I would have a lot of hesitation if I was Fanatics and Michael Rubin to do this and do a lot of homework before I made that move, because it is how do you have the guys that are making the cards then grading them?
Yep. And I will put a plug in too for Jeremy Lee's show where he had the president of Upper Deck on, Jason Maharaj, I believe is how you say his name. And they actually talked about this for a little bit, like the whole idea of grading with a upper deck getting a grader. And he just said straight out, no, it's a huge conflict of interest. Huge conflict of interest. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure Fanatics are very smart. Ruben's very smart. They would have to do a lot of homework to figure out what the reaction would be to this or how they would incorporate this and have answers. I mean, there could be regulatory stuff with this too. But yeah, I now have June 20th marked on my calendar to see what gets announced. I'll tell you that though.
I mean, I'm fine with Fanatics buying PWCC or Company A, Company B, but I don't think I would be fine with them buying a grading company. I just really don't.
Yeah, it's just too much room for shady stuff, which we don't need anymore. We already have enough shady stuff in this hobby.
No shortage of conspiracy theories in the sports card.
Well, I'm sad. I thought you were going to go, no shortage of hobby drama. There you go.
Here we go. Okay, last question on the show today from Instagram. Again, we want the wax. Do you also find it fishy that Whatnot refuses to provide winners lists to their drops? Okay, so you're going to answer this, but before you do, because I haven't been on Whatnot in forever, admittedly. We've just been so busy. I've kind of missed this whole drop thing. What is it?
I don't know. It's something they do. No, it's from what I think I've maybe like seen it pop up on my app a couple times where it's like, what is this notification trying to tell me? And at the end of the day, it's basically you can get huge discounts on a product. So let's think of a pair of awesome sneakers that usually go for $1,000. They'll have a Whatnot drop, and you might get one entry to get them for like $100. And then if you share that entry, you share the drop, then you can get 4 more entries. So it's kind of one of these viral things. I'm sure there's not a lot of these available to purchase at that huge discounted rate, but they're generating hype, publicity, getting people to share.
So the bigger account you have,
yes,
and using basically their referral. So if your backyard breaks, then you've got
I'm sure but that's
25,000 people that follow you.
That's where you get the crux of this is it really, I don't know what the right word is. Is ethical the right word? Is it ethical for these Whatnot sellers to be trying to get all these drops because they have like a built-in advantage with all their user base? I don't know. That's kind of the rub that's been going on. I've seen a lot of stuff on Instagram and social media about that.
Would disingenuous be the word? It's
maybe,
like you're presenting this opportunity to get cheap products, but really the game is tilted so much towards your biggest accounts that they're going to.
And I'm sure other people have better like handling what's going on. But again, let's get back to the crux of the question. Okay, yes, I think it is. Why wouldn't they publish the winners? That's what I always ask myself. You know, at every other contest, maybe it's not publicly available, but there's always an option to like write in to get a list of winners if you ever read the fine print. If you're a lawyer on these contests, you can always get a written letter or whatever, an email with all the winners. So I do think it's kind of fishy that they don't publish them, but it could be maybe it's a privacy thing. I don't know. I don't know what the reason is, but it kind of looks bad. And again, Whatnot has not had the greatest history of being out front and on top of, I don't know what the right word is, issues that arise. We've had lots of sellers taking cards out of breaks, getting caught, and nothing happening. So it's not new for Whatnot to be involved in some kind of controversy, and it seems just to help them because they're blowing up in billion-dollar company. I've always thought too, I think they changed this. One of the things that always bugged me about Whatnot is you've never had a historical record of a stream. I couldn't go watch a past stream. So if I bought into one like pre-fill or pre-bid and then
fell asleep.
Yeah, and fell asleep and didn't watch it. But I think they changed that. I've been able to find a couple like past streams, but that was one thing that really bothered me about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't help the perception that something not on the up and up is going on when you're not publishing the winners list. Yeah. So I'm sure they have their reason. But okay, that is our show for this Thursday. If you like the episode, please leave a rating review on Apple, Spotify, whatever podcast app you listen to us on. If you love the show and want to support us and chat with us every day in the Hockey Cards Gongshow Discord server, please consider a $5 a month donation. Join our out of 99 support level tier. The link is in the show description. It's on our website at hockeycardsgongshow.com. It's become a patron. It's on the Patreon website at Patreon. All you got to do is search for Hockey Cards Gongshow. And in our Instagram and TikTok profile in our link tree, there's a link there. Follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. And Troy, the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast is a production of Dollar Box Ventures LLC. Have an awesome weekend. Happy Father's Day to all those in the U.S., and we'll see you on Monday.